Testing. Check, check. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing. Testing 1, 2. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening. Welcome to the regular board meeting of August 20th, 2026, the Burbank Unified School District Board of Education. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands
one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. We acknowledge the traditional and ancestral unceded territory of the Chumash, Tongva, Fernandeño, Tataviem, and First Nations on which we are learning, educating, and living. Next is our report on closed session actions. I have two. In the matter of special education case 27-01, the Board of Trustees voted to approve by a vote of 5-0 a settlement agreement for $14,500 for additional services. And in the matter of special education case 27-02, the Board of Trustees voted to approve by a vote of 5-0 a settlement agreement for $7,000 for additional services. All right, we'll move to 6, adoption of the agenda. Do I have changes to the agenda? Ms. Olson?
Thank you. Can I pull 14A, H, K, and W for discussion out of consent, please?
14A, H, and K,
And W.
and W. I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you. Any other items to pull from consent or changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to 7, approval of minutes. Both of these minutes are amended. So we'll do first the consideration of approval of minutes from the special board meeting held August 1st, 2026. Can I get a motion and a second to approve these minutes?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. And Dr. Arkanian, you were absent, so are you abstaining? Okay, thank you. So can Dr. Weisberg, on a motion from Dr. Weisberg, and a second from Ms. Cano, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. And one, so that's 4-0 with one abstaining. On item 7B, consideration of approval of minutes from the regular board meeting held August 6th, again amended, and Ms. Olson was absent, so you'll be abstaining. Is that right? Okay. Can I get a motion and a second to approve as amended?
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Arkanian, second by Dr. Weisberg. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. All right, 8, items for future consideration, colleagues. Ms. Olson.
Last December, I asked for key findings from the district safety committee. And as our schools sit down to start looking at those committees and safety plans, I would love to get some findings from the district safety committee to kind of guide and give that as a frame, if that's something that we can do. The second request would be a report on summer school. Love to hear the good, the bad, the evolving, enrollment changes, and parent and staff feedback if possible.
Thank you. Dr. Weisberg.
Actually, quite similarly to Ms. Olson, I would like to have a more robust conversation about safety on our school campuses in general. And that would include in a pretty big way, the safety. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I also want to ask Dr. McCoy if we can revisit this to-do list that we started a while back. That was just the agenda items that we as board members have requested come back. And we can just revisit that because there's quite a few on here that have been on for a while. And, would love to get those things actually brought back for us.
Maybe we look at that next meeting agenda. Okay,
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Cano.
I've been going along with what Dr. Weisberg said. I had, in that vein, just if we have any way of getting some type of timeline in terms of, because I know I asked last year and then I asked, I think last meeting, in terms of with all the different ASL agencies that we have to come in terms of, I just said, which are the ones we're using and who, because we board approve a lot of them. And I know they're for different reasons. So just kind of having, again, some understanding of which companies work with, do what.
So the staff report on interpretation services, but specifically ASL,
Well, I mean,
or any of our language interpretation services as well.
yeah, but no, I think let's go with just ASL right now, because basically that's one I know we have a lot of different agencies we work with.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Arkanian, did you have something?
Two things. One with the safety one. We always talk about internal, but also, recently sort of fire got pretty close. I want to know also what the procedure is in case of evacuation and when the fire gets that close to close one of our schools.
Right.
And the second one is today I learned that there have been some changes from the state side on the dual enrollment, where it's districts and the interpretation of certain changes and made it a little more complex now for high school. I want us to look into that, see if there's something that's going to be affecting us, because it is affecting, for example, Montebello School District and some of the local colleges. So maybe we can look into what those changes are and if it's going to be affecting us.
Great. I have one addition as well, which is the last 2 years, we've done a midweek start for the beginning of the school year. I'd like to see some data on how that's affected attendance that first week of school. So that the board is prepared to at least provide that to the calendar committee when they're making their recommendation. It would also be great to have some sort of data from teachers and parents, but if that's not possible to get before we look at it, that's okay too. But I think having the data around, is this an effective start for us, would be helpful. Anything else on items for future consideration? Okay, 9 presentations and recognitions. Dr. McCoy?
We have none tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we will move to 10 requests to address the board. Those persons wishing to address the board may do so at this time and are asked to complete a speaker card. All public comments are to be directed to the board president. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. However, in exceptional circumstances, when necessary to ensure full opportunity for public input, the president may, with board consent, adjust the amount of time allowed for public input and/or the time allotted for each speaker. Any such adjustments shall be done equitably so as to allow for a diversity of viewpoints. The president may also ask members of the public with the same viewpoint to elect a few individuals to address the board on behalf of that viewpoint. Please refer to the complete text of the Burbank Unified School Board Bylaw 9323 Meeting Conduct, Public Participation. Due to the Brown Act that governs public meetings, the board cannot respond directly to public comment. The board can direct the superintendent and staff to meet with members of the public to better understand their concerns or points of view. I believe I have 9 cards and I have 1 virtual speaker. So let's try to start with our virtual speaker. That's Carolina Villamil. We'll let you come off mute and
Hi, can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Carolina Camil, and I am an Emerson Elementary parent. I am here to express my deep concern and disappointment regarding the district's last-minute decision to eliminate several ATV programs. This decision created unnecessary stress for many families and effectively forced us to enroll our children in a childcare program we had not previously chosen or considered as suitable. The cancellation notice also did not provide meaningful alternatives, particularly for families who rely on before-school care. I have already contacted Mr. McCoy and Ms. Stone regarding my concerns about the current right at school setup at Emerson. The children are in a classroom that offers very little visibility or access for parents to see how they are adjusting. We also have limited information about the staff caring for our children. As parents, we should have greater transparency about who is supervising our kids. I am also concerned about the classroom setup. It lacks basic supplies such as pencils, scissors, books. Our children should have access to the resources and environment promised by the new program. At a minimum, I am asking the district to move the new RAS program into the unused ATB classroom. This classroom provides a much more appropriate environment with books, toys, puzzles, games, crafts, and immediate access to a playground. It also allows parents to walk directly to the classroom door during drop-off and pickup times, giving us greater visibility into our children's new environment and interactions with others. I think it goes without saying, it is very disappointing that the district did not do more to preserve ATB. Last year, we had a temporary teacher, Ms. Brooke, who was willing to return and had made a significant positive impact on the program. The children loved her. The program was working well for our families. I'm asking the district to do better, not just for the families, but for the kids who are the ones that ultimately suffer. They deserve a safe, enriching, well-equipped environment. It is my hope that the district will take immediate steps to improve the current situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villamil. Do we have our other virtual speaker on? Okay, let me know if she does join, okay? Then I first have George Garabigi, followed by Kathy Wills-Sarna. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm gonna read from my phone.
That's fine.
Good public speaker, but yeah, good evening, everybody, board members, cabinet, and everybody else. I should probably acknowledge, but my anxiety is skyrocketing right now, so my brain's fried. Sorry. So as you introduced me, my name is George Garabigi. I'm the systems analyst for our technology services team. And I'm here to speak tonight about item 14B, the consideration of approval of the MOU with Facilitron to pilot the streaming high school athletics events. I wanted to raise a concern, not necessarily about the goal of the pilot itself, but about the process that brought this item before the board. I can only speak for myself, and from my experience, I'm also one of the members of our technology service team who will be responsible for some of the backend technical work required to make this project function safely on our district network. I only became aware of this project about 2 weeks ago. At that point, discussions have already been taking place between the high schools, the district admins, the vendor, and the project had progressed to the point where we were essentially being asked to work with the vendor to make the implementation happen. My concern is it's not whether streaming athletic events is a good idea. I don't have an opinion on that. My concern is that the full deployment of something like this is fundamentally a technology dependent project, and the staff responsible for implementing and supporting the technical side of it weren't even included in the initial discussions or planning that were taking place. This isn't really a matter of finding somewhere to plug in a camera and add some computers for the vendor to do their thing. When an outside vendor wants to install servers and audio and video equipment on our district property and connect those to our systems, specifically our network, there are significant technical and security considerations. From my side of the project, that means understanding what equipment is being installed, how it's communicating, what internet access it requires, working with our network analyst to make sure that the firewall rules need to, what needs to be created, how those systems will be isolated from the rest of the network, what accounts and credentials are required, how much bandwidth is needed, who will have remote access, and how that equipment will be maintained and supported. Those are the questions that should be addressed before the implementation timeline is established, not afterward. We also learned about this immediately before the beginning of the school year, with the vendor already making travel arrangements and the equipment installation arrangements.
Thank you, Ms. Garabigi. Would you mind, I know you've got notes on your phone. Would you mind emailing them to us though? That would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Next I have Ms. Wills-Sarna, followed by Barry Sarna. Good evening. My name is Kathy Wills. I'm here to formally thank those of you that responded to the email that I sent after my very first day teaching kindergarten this year. What I had planned went smoothly. The food fiasco had a very negative impact on me and my students. I wanted to let you know that your responses, some of them were short, some of them long and very detailed, showed me that I was heard. I appreciate the time you took to read and to respond. And while it didn't change the fact that what happened was and is inexcusable, it did let me know that some of you understand the importance of communication. I sent the email to 8 of you, and I heard back from 4 of you. That is 50%, which to me is still a failing rate. People are not expecting people who send emails are not expecting long responses to the emails, but please consider, even if it's on a chain and you see what everybody else, please consider sending a 1-sentence response to the people of your Burbank community. 4 or 5 words. Thank you for sharing. We are working on it. I appreciate hearing from you. No response from people is just unsettling. It's important for us to know that you got the email, even if there's no way for us to know that you took the time to read it. If the board and the superintendent and the district management continues to emphasize the importance of communication and transparency, then please make sure that your actions reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. And next I have Barry Sarna, followed by Elizabeth Isabella.
Hi, I am Barry Sarna. You heard from my definitely better half. Good evening. I'd like to quote some strategies from the very well-known Contrarian's Guide to Leadership. And some years ago, Burbank held an aspiring administrators class using this book as a guide. And here are some of the lessons we can learn. Think gray and free, which means gather all relevant information before making decisions and avoid rushing to conclusions. Postpone decisions until you have enough context, especially in complex or uncertain situations. Artful listening, listening to understand, not just to respond. If you act without asking employees, and I'll add the public, they will think you don't care. Understand the organization's culture, including its values, norms, and unwritten rules. I believe these are well-known strategies that would serve you well to take a look at. Consider not having board meetings at City Hall. A nominal fee was charged for the use of a professional, up-to-date venue with plenty of parking and seating for the public. We waste more money through mistakes and fraud that have happened than what it would cost us at City Hall. I think it's of paramount importance that we foster the long-held relationship between BUSD and the city of Burbank. The third floor BUSD boardroom here, even with updates, doesn't look to me or feel professional. There's only street parking and a limit to how many people could be in here. If the superintendent needs to sit on the dais, I assure you I can show you how we can fit another chair, and other committees have done it as well. I'm sorry, I really can't reach any other conclusion than having meetings up here seem to limit public access and comment. The recent debacle with food prep and delivery to elementary schools is also, to me, a lack in study of communication and understanding of what has worked in the past. The kitchen at Luther has been far more effective in serving the needs of elementary schools. If the people who actually work in food prep were listened to, who knew this would be a problem, this failure could have been avoided. I'm sure you'll hear more on this, you already have. So please listen to understand before actions are taken and more mistakes are made. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sarna. I have Elizabeth Isabella, followed by Jeff Vanderbort.
Good evening, members of the school board and the USD administration. I'm Elizabeth Isabella, president of the Burbank High School PTSA. I spoke to you last year about the need for a permanent concession stand at the VHS field. And I promised you that I would be back when the football season started to continue that advocacy. We have our first football game of the year this Friday, August 21, and I invite you all to attend and partake of many, many sessions. When I last came before the board, I spoke of the need for equity between the high school campuses and the legal liability from the heightened physical risk that our volunteers that came from operating a temporary concession stand. The events of this month have highlighted another reason that BHS should have a concession stand. What happens if Memorial Field is out of commission? Because of ongoing construction at Memorial Field, Borough's football team is being forced to play at BHS next Friday. I can tell you that their PTSA is more than a little intimidated by the prospect of running a temporary concession stand that they have to fall in from the ground up. But it made me think of other situations. As Californians, we are always worried about an earthquake, and it is an unfortunate truth that Memorial Field is smack dab in the middle of a liquefaction zone. Burbank High is not. We can all easily imagine a situation where Memorial Field is not safe for use for months, but Burbank High might be. We owe it to our school community to have viable plan Bs in potential long-term emergency situations. A permanent concession stand at BHS would help ensure the site is a feasible backup to Memorial Field. We have 6 home games this year at the BHS campus, and we always need volunteers for the gargantuan task setting up, selling, packing up concessions, and cleaning the equipment. We are set for tomorrow night, but I will send you all a link for future volunteer signups. We hope.
Thank you, Ms. Isabella. I have Jeff Vanderborg, followed by Daniel Hacking.
Good evening. This is about another concern, fiscal transparency. 2 weeks ago, Dr. Hasty presented improving grades on our fiscal tracker, health fiscal tracker. We went from an overall D to a C. He acknowledged his fiscal tracker still shows Fs on deficit spending, the general fund, internal controls, and position control. You know this. What is confusing to the public is that he did not mention the letter from LACO that you, Madam Chair, received on July 22nd. The Los Angeles County Office of Education sent this letter. We obtained it from them through a PRA. This letter continues the designation of lack of going concern for our district for the fiscal year 26-27. We will continue to see the presence of Mr. Holash apparently for quite a while longer, paid 75% of his expenses. The County Board of Education superintendent is charged or mandated to monitor the financial and operational viability of all districts in LA County. She has determined that our district faces some significant fiscal concerns. These are not abstract accounting terms. This designation affects everything we do: bargaining decisions, program planning, staff, and public confidence that you, our elected officials, will continue to remain in charge. Please don't dismiss this as a technical footnote. We know we're not alone in dealing with these financial problems. Other school districts across California, like the district Dr. McCoy came from, where he led for 5 years, have similar financial challenges. We cannot continue to kick down the proverbial can down the road with the hope that more future funding will appear or that we will make cuts on future years. Now more than ever, in the spirit of transparency, please make the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee available to the public to see so we can all learn together where we're headed. I leave you with 3 questions. Did this board decide it was a good idea to keep this letter from the public? How does not releasing this letter meet your commitment to transparency? Similarly, tongue-in-cheek, who decided it's a good idea to spend 3 months redacting the Sobel report? You know, the hoping to be forgotten report you promised would be released as soon as it arrived in your hot little hands, with no redactions or with minimal redactions. Please let us know.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderborg. I have Daniel Hacking, followed by Alexandra Helfrich.
Good evening, School Board. Dr. McCoy. My name is Daniel Hacking, and I'm here speaking today because the public deserves clear answers about food service to our students. The district said that recent food service failures were caused by health department restrictions, staffing shortages, and issues outside management's control. But no proof has been provided of any health department notice or inspection report with a shutdown order or formal directive requiring elementary kitchens to stop using sinks or limit operation. Health department notices are public information. Has anyone here seen these restrictive notices? Maybe you have, but we can't find them. People have contacted the health department directly. We're told that these sites had not been deemed non-operational and no shutdown or plan check was on record until BUSD reportedly initiated one only yesterday. Why did it take this long, and how long will this process take now? This is not a new problem. Why wasn't it reported and managed in the spring? This isn't a minor communication issue. Staff were reportedly directed not to use kitchen sinks and to fill sanitation buckets from hand washing sinks. That sounds like an actual health department violation. Water was reportedly shut off to food service sinks installed in 24-25, with caution tape placed around equipment, interfering with basic sanitation in kitchens feeding children. Where is the work order for their repair? Why wasn't this made a top priority when it was finally reported back in July? Had a whole month. The larger problem is mismanagement. Concerns about staffing, safety, meal planning, and food procurement were raised internally months ago and went unanswered. Back to school food orders were late and incomplete. Inexperienced kitchen staff were not consulted. Experienced kitchen staff were not consulted. Frontline employees were blamed for problems caused by a lack of supplies and direction. Most seriously, there are reports of unsafe food being served to children, late deliveries, food held at unsafe temperatures, expired or spoiled items, and the confusion around basic sanitation. These are not small operational hiccups. They create real food safety risks. I am asking this board to stop accepting verbal explanations and demand documentation. Any health department directive, inspection reports, work orders, ordering and delivery records, temperature logs, and written communications showing who made these decisions and why. Food service is responsible for the basic Maslow hierarchy of need, feeding hungry children safely every single day. When management fails to plan, fails to communicate honestly, and shifts blame into frontline staff, children pay the price. This board must investigate, hold responsible administrators accountable, and restore trust before more students are put at risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hacking. I have Alexandra Helfrich, and then has our last virtual speaker logged in? No? Okay. Then this is my last card. Thank you.
My name is Alexandra Helfrich. Since the first day of school, many parents, students, and staff have raised serious concerns about ongoing district-wide food service challenges. While the administration has offered some explanations, the problems have not been fully resolved. At Burroughs High School, families continue to report late lunches and daily food shortages. Today, for example, several students were left standing in line, hoping more food would arrive before they had to return to class. Many kids who eat school-provided meals count on them every day. Growing up, school lunch was often my only reliable meal. Missing it could mean I didn't eat that day or until the next. California offers universal free school meals to end student hunger, improve academic focus, and eliminate social stigma. It's meant to ensure that every student can receive healthy, nutritious, tasty breakfast and lunch because it's critical to learning, health, and well-being, regardless of family income. Here are a few parent quotes about BUSD food service since the first day of school. It's really a terrible situation. I have a fourth grader who used to eat 60% of the meals last year provided by her school. We had a breakdown this morning when she discovered that we had forgotten to pack a lunch, crying. This is how bad it is. I had a kid from another school tell me the chicken salad had no chicken and tasted like dirty leaves. What are they serving the kids? No wonder my kid said he didn't like the food at school because he usually loved it when last year he tried it for the first time. We had to pack lunch today. Oh my gosh, no wonder we were so confused by the menus and thought, salads and wraps every day. Yesterday, it was supposed to be Mandarin chicken and my kid was like, heck yeah. Well, it wasn't. Instead, it was ham and cheese on a hamburger bun, but the cheese was half melted and watery, and I almost threw up, according to my son. Update regarding lunch today. By the time she got lunch, they were out of the Philly cheesesteak. They gave her a grilled cheese that she said tasted like vomit. Then she went for the broccoli. Apparently, that was the only edible thing today. Bear in mind, these quotes are about students who eventually got food. Many waited well over an hour after their lunch period while watching their peers who brought lunch from home eat. This is only a small sampling, but the message is heartbreaking and clear. No child should spend the school day hungry, embarrassed, or unsure whether the meal they are given will be edible. I encourage each of you to eat school lunch at a different site daily until these issues are fully resolved. Please communicate a concrete plan and fix the food service issues now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Helfrich. That was my last card. We'll move to our reports from labor partners. I saw Ms. Shara Schwartz. From Burbank Teachers Association.
Good evening, community members, members of the Board of Education, and fellow BUSD employees. My name is Sarah Schwartz, and I'm a Burbank teacher, a BUSD parent, and the president of the Burbank Teachers Association, representing approximately 700 teachers, counselors, nurses, and speech language pathologists in BUSD. I want to start today by welcoming all BUSD employees, students, and families back to school. The exciting first days of getting to know new classmates, welcoming new employees, and reconnecting with students and their families at school are made possible by the dedicated work of educators, classified staff, administrators, and volunteers, starting weeks before students step foot on our campuses. Whenever I start a new school year, I am reminded of BUSD's greatest strengths, the committed employees who keep our district running, and the caring community that pours so much support into each of our schools. As we enter a new school year, I want to express my gratitude to the team that guided us through an unprecedented series of events. Dr. Macias, thank you for stepping up to guide our district. I hope you were able to get some well-deserved rest over the summer. I'm deeply grateful for your dedication to keeping BUSD moving forward during such a turbulent time. I also want to welcome new leadership to the district office, including Dr. Tom McCoy, Matt Lavelle, Maisha James McIntosh, Stephen Hicks, and Kelly Stone, who are joining us for their first school year with BUSD. You are stepping into important roles at a critical time of transition and change for Burbank Unified. Educators and this community want, and in fact, truly need you to succeed in your new roles. To that end, it is my view and that of many of the educators I talk to that our priority must be restoring trust in the district office. We need district office leadership that educators, school sites, and our community can rely on. I'd ask you to consider this your North Star for the coming year. BUSD has been through a lot over the past year, and its students, employees, and community deserve the absolute best. I look forward to working with you to bring that vision to life and to move BUSD from a reactive posture to a proactive approach to our work. In the spirit of being proactive, I want to touch on some issues weighing on educators' minds right now. First, I want to acknowledge the reality that you won't fix everything that frustrates everyone in your first day, first month, and maybe not even in your first year. However, it is important to me and the educators I represent that we see progress, which is why I have to bring up the chaos of the first day with school lunches. Issues arise and unforeseen problems emerge, but we need to address them moving forward and avoid their recurrence. We had a similar issue during summer school, and whatever the problem is, whether our kitchen facilities, staffing, or both, we need to learn from what went wrong, implement a solution, and get back on track. I appreciate that leadership rolled up their sleeves and in some cases got to work making food alongside our classified colleagues. But the best way to show progress is to avoid repeating mistakes. Second, I want to acknowledge the discussion parents are having with district staff on student technology use. This is an issue where I know educators want to do right by our students. It is also one in which we want to act deliberately and find a solution that does not overcorrect or inhibit meaningful instruction. I want to make sure we can make space for digital tools when they add value to an exercise or classroom experience, while also ensuring the use of technology is purposeful and grade level appropriate. It is through intentional use of technology at all levels that curriculum can be enriched and students can be prepared for the modern world which they will go on to lead. We appreciate being kept up to date on these discussions and look forward to continuing to contribute productively. Finally, I want to end by celebrating a win for public schools in California. Thanks to the hard work of educators, classified employees, our unions, and other supporters of public education, the extension of Proposition 55 has qualified for the November ballot. The measure, now numbered Proposition 3, would make permanent $14.6 billion in funding that supports California's students. The funding provided by this measure is a whopping 1/6 of school funding in California, and in Burbank alone accounts for approximately $20.5 million of our budget. But qualifying it for the ballot was only the start. We need our community and voters in Burbank and all across California to support our students and make this funding permanent. Our schools deserve funding that meets the needs of our students. The best start to winning the funding our schools deserve is to prevent the potentially catastrophic cut that failing to pass Proposition 3 would cause. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Schwartz. We'll move to number 12, Superintendent's Report. Dr. McCoy.
Thank you, President Ponser, Camcar trustees, staff, and guests. Welcome to the Superintendent's Report for August 20th, 2026. I'm going to report out on a couple of items that are top of mind in the community. First of all, I want to thank all the parents who've communicated and met with us about the transition that was poorly handled at the last minute from some A to B classrooms to Right at School classrooms. Right at School is designed to be a choice for parents, and in this case, it wasn't. We understand the hardships that created in the community. From that day to now, we've been able to communicate with all the parents, and we do have an offer where they can move to a different program that has availability on their elementary school site if they would like. I want to thank Kelly Stone, our new director of expanded learning, who officially started Tuesday this week, but was in the building a couple days last week to help us begin to meet with parents and understand their concerns, our communication gaps, and how we can do better the next time. We just wanted to let staff know that no A to B classrooms were closed. We had 22 A to B classrooms last year. 16 of those classrooms remain up and running. We had 6 classrooms to begin the year that weren't staffed. Yes, those were the classrooms staffed in the past with temporary agency hires. And Right at School is available to take those classrooms rather than create waiting lists for students and families. Right at School is again designed to be a choice, not a mandate. And we understand that loud and clear. One of Mrs. Stone's key jobs is to complete the study of all our childcare programs that was promised last year. And we expect that would be completed by November. Parent surveys will be going out, and we'll be trying to hear from everybody on the what's working and what's not working in all the programs that serve our students with before and after school care. We know that childcare is critical for our families. Most families now have to have 2 incomes in order to make ends meet, and our childcare program is even more critical. What we do want to also note that there is no plan to discontinue the A2B program. If you know anyone who's interested, we're flying A2B teaching and paraeducator positions on EdJoin right now. We did send that information out also to all our elementary parents with a frequently asked questions program last week. Our A2B program honestly has been hard to staff. Our folks tend not only to not get a lot of applicants, but folks in those programs tend to come and go a lot during the school year because they're college students or retirees primarily. And so we are actively working to recruit for A2B positions, and we will continue to do so. Also, just to answer a concern we received about our contracting with Right at School, services provided by Right at School and similar types of vendors, meaning technology programs primarily like Classroom Dojo, like Aries, they fall under a similar service, and similar services fall under the category of professional and special services under Public Contract Code Section 20111D and Government Code Section 53060. And as such, they can be awarded without a formal bid process, as the court confirmed in the case of Fair Education Santa Barbara versus Santa Barbara Unified School District in 2021. We do receive prompts on these different types of programs from all members of the community, including board members, teachers, staff, community members who are always trying to let us know what programs are out there and available. Those programs are vetted and then brought to the board for consideration. There is no conflict of interest violation for Right at School in our board policy 9270 conflict of interest that was just renewed by the board in our previous meeting. Again, we are working to build a better program with childcare and communicate more often. So our goal is by mid-year to have all elementary parents have a one sheet that describes each program that we offer, what the primary types of activities are, and typically what the primary actions during the day, whether that's more active and outside, whether that's more inside and homework based. And we will have that report to the board as well before we put the one sheet out. In regard to the nutrition services program, there's no excuses for what happened on the first day of school. And we are every day trying to take more input in from our frontline staff in nutrition services. And we want to thank them for literally holding us together over the last week and a half. I do have some good news. We did send out frequently asked questions on nutrition services last night. So over 33,000 constituents, parents and staff. And we had an in-person meeting with public health yesterday down in Los Angeles with Dr. Hasty and our facilities director, Valeska Emmis. I met online today with Director Emmis, folks from our bond staff and the public health department. Public health department has given us an opportunity to submit an interim plan to reopen the elementary school kitchens. We believe that would be as early as next week, and we'll be returning to those kitchens with providing them our interim solution while we submit. As you heard, we have submitted plans into their plan check process. And this is another issue where we are not going to go through this again. That's our commitment. And what we've heard loud and clear from the community is to, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And we are not going to be in that business. So the news today was really positive. We're going to be checking tomorrow the 120-degree hot water temperature, looking for a couple pieces of equipment where we don't have two prep boards. We'll add one, and then we're going to send a standard operating procedure manual to the public health department. At this time, there are no public health concerns on their end for any of our kitchens. We just have to catch up on paperwork that was missed and discover, are there any other modernization updates that need to be made? So our goal is to be back serving from the elementary school kitchens by the end of next week. So that was a small win that we had today. And just appreciate Waleska Emmis, our director of facilities, who stepped in the middle of this on Monday this week and was able to get a lot of information moving that really helped facilitate this process, where we're now on a timeline to return to the kitchens, as well as a timeline to submit the proper documentation and avoid these types of situations in the future. So I do want to thank everyone for their patience. In the middle of all of this, everyone has been very welcoming to me, which surprised me a little bit on the first day, but I'm glad to be here. I'm grateful to be in Burbank. And there's really an amazing engine of teachers, students, and families that make this district what it is. We've had a chance as a new team to meet with city leadership next week. We met with the police department. I've met with the city manager. We've talked with the mayor and council member Perez. I was at the Chamber of Commerce today with Dr. Macias to meet our business leaders. We've met with our PTA group, and thank you to them for an amazing event at John Burroughs High School immediately before school started to bring us all together in community. And we look forward to a lot more events like that. I think what I would agree with you 100% loud and clear, that we can't have things like this happen anymore. And our commitment to you is, as things pop up that have been unattended for whatever reason over the last 12 to 18 months, we will be dealing with those. And in some cases, they will cause some dissonance in the system. But we're trying to be proactive and let you know what's happening, and then make the fixes we need to make and the apologies we need to make to move on in a more positive way. There's so much good and positive in this district. And we're also looking forward, if you haven't met our new public information officer, Stephen Hicks, is in day 4. And he had quite a first 4 days. And we're able to actually start to push out some positive stories about our students. We're trying to get into the LA Times and some other local media to make sure that the community and a broader LA region understands what an amazing place Burbank Unified is. And now with that, I'd like to go to the actual best part of the superintendent's report. And so I had a chance last Friday to meet with the Burbank Unified Student Involvement Committee. We have a group of, I think, 30-ish dedicated students from all our high schools that have come together as student voice is one of the goals that we're trying to achieve this year. And so I'd like to invite Committee Chair Emma Alves from John Burroughs High School and Vice Chair Kamo Gonsayan from Burbank High School to the podium for the report from the Student Involvement Committee. Thank you, guys, and come on down.
Members of the board. My name is Emma Alves. I'm a student at Got it, sorry, too short. Okay, my name is Emma Alves. I'm a student at John Burroughs High School, and I serve as the chair of the Burbank Council PTA Student Involvement Committee.
I'm Kamo Gonsayan, a senior at Burbank High School, and serving as the vice chair of the committee.
We're honored to be here tonight representing students across Burbank and sharing some of what our committee has accomplished and where we hope to go next. Our goal is simple. We want students to have a real voice in the conversations that affect their schools, not just be invited into the room, but to feel comfortable speaking up, sharing ideas, and turning those ideas into action. One of our first programs this school year was a voter registration drive and voting activity. It gave students an opportunity to learn more about civic participation, also sharing their own opinions about what they felt was working in our district and what they believed could be improved. The results were clear. The topic that received the highest number of votes was mental health, and in second place was future preparedness.
Another project that became especially meaningful to me was the Student Excellence and Engagement Award last semester. The project began from a vision I had to recognize students whose impact might not always show up to GPA, test score, traditional award. I brought the vision to our committee, but it was our teamwork that made it real. Together, we brought the program to Burbank High School, John Burroughs High School, and Monterey High School, giving teachers the opportunity to recognize students for their engagement, growth, leadership, character, and the positive difference they make in their classrooms. Seeing students recognized for qualities that can sometimes go unnoticed reminded us exactly why student involvement matter.
And we're just getting started. This year, we want to continue creating programs that connect students across our schools, give them opportunities to lead, and make sure their perspectives are heard by adults making decisions with them.
We also want more students and families to know that PTA is not something students is simply to benefit from. It is something we can actively be part of. We encourage students, parents, staff, and community members to join PTA at their local school or become involved with Burbank Council PTA. Because when adults advocate for students, that is powerful.
But when students are given the opportunity to advocate alongside them, that voice becomes even stronger. Thank you to the board, our district, and the Burbank Council PTA for continuing to make space for student voices.
We're excited for what we can accomplish together this year. Thank you.
And I just want to thank our student leaders. We had a wonderful conversation on Friday afternoon about their priorities, and they'll be meeting with me several times during the school year, and I'll be feeding that information back to the board and to their principals and to the school community in general. So thank you guys for being here, and thank you for keeping our focus on the main thing, which we appreciate. And that is the superintendent's report for August 20th, 2026. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll move to 13, which is action items. We have 13A is consideration of approval of amended and restated bylaws concerning Measure ABC Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. I guess this is you, Dr. McCoy, because Dr. Hasty is taking his child to college right now. If that's
Yes, and we hope Dr. Hasty is not watching right now. He took his daughter to Georgetown University today, and he will be back in a couple of days. So before the board is item 13A, consideration of approval of amended and restated bylaws governing the Measure ABC Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. For the board and the public, there is an amendment to the bylaws that were published with the agenda with 3 small changes that actually open up the bylaws to give the most assurance to the Bond Oversight Committee, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, and the public. On January 16, 2025, the board adopted resolution number 19, establishing the Measure ABC Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, adopting related bylaws. At staff's request, legal counsel reviewed the bylaws to update and clarify provisions governing the committee's oversight responsibilities and administration. The amended and restated bylaws clarify the committee's oversight of Measure ABC bond proceeds, annual and interim reporting, and audit review requirements, the respective authority of the board, superintendent, and committee members, membership, appointment, term, alternate, and ex officio provisions, requests for district records, and district administrative support. The revised bylaws also provide for meetings at least annually and no more frequently than quarterly, and include transition language regarding completion of Measure S bond expenditures and termination of the Measure S committee following its final report. We did want to note that one of the small amendments in the bylaws is that if the bond committee voted in a majority to have additional meetings, that additional meetings would be held. So there's not a limit to the quarterly meetings. There's no fiscal impact. The proposed bylaws were provided to the committee members at their August 12, 2026 meeting. Upon board approval, the amended and restated bylaws will supersede the prior Measure ABC bylaws. There's no fiscal impact, and it's the recommendation of district administration that the Board of Trustees approve the amended and restated bylaws governing the Measure ABC Citizens Bond Oversight Committee as presented.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve 13A as amended?
Second.
Discussion or questions? Dr. Weisberg?
Well, yes.
Go ahead.
I appreciate the changes. I think it doesn't hurt us to, like you said, open up the language a bit. I know that in past incarnations, there was definitely a lack of clarity in regards to, and I don't mean our current two bond oversight committees, but a real lack of clarity in regards to what the position's role was and how they worked in partnership with the district. And so I'm grateful that we've spent time revisiting these and that we were open to feedback.
Other questions, concerns? Oh, Dr. McCoy, go ahead.
I just want to thank the members of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. I attended the meeting, gave my first ever public comment in my career at their committee meeting in order to just thank them for their service and the time they're spending ensuring that our Measure ABC funds are spent according to the ballot measure. And just my thanks to all of you who are serving.
What was the feedback from the Bond Oversight Committee on these changes?
The Bond Oversight Committee has approved the changes.
Okay. Was there discussion that happened at the meeting about them or?
Ms. Morris, do you want to come up?
Yeah. Thankfully, we have our Bond Oversight Committee chair just happens to be in the room tonight. So Ms. Morris, would you mind sharing with us the conversation?
Hi.
Hi.
That was our first time meeting the attorney that's working with USD. So it was informative just to experience the whole thing. What I can tell you guys is that I can't make a formal statement on behalf of the committee because they haven't voted. But I can tell you that the committee did share a few edits and concerns, and the attorney said that they would take into consideration. So I'm hoping that they're minor. I think overall that I personally feel that this is a wonderful step ahead. These are current bylaw. We like that. It needed to be done. But I do think that we should continue the conversation regularly about the bylaws and review them. But otherwise, I mean, it's a good step.
Thank you so much. Okay. Anything else? All right. It was moved by Dr. Agakanian and seconded by Member Olson to approve the amended and restated bylaws as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. 13B, Human Resources, consideration of approval agreement for professional services for Shaw HR Consulting. Mr. LaBelle?
Current board policy and administrative regulations address the compliance obligations of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, and the Fair Employment and Housing Act. Excuse me. A cohesive disability management program is crucial for all California employees, including the district. Consultants Shaw HR Consulting Incorporated will assist district staff with the development and continued implementation of a disability management program that allows the district's continued ability to meet the compliance obligations as outlined in the ADA and FEHA legislation, as well as board policy and administrative regulations. The cost-effective solution to creating a quality program will continue to mitigate the cost of compliance. It is expected that a portion of the contract's expense will be recovered through savings through the workers' comp program budget by reducing temporary disability payments and indemnity reserves. In addition, a quality disability management program can significantly reduce future liability costs. Including within the scope of the program or a formal return to work program, essential job analysis, and an enhanced interactive accommodation process. The return to work program is a temporary modified duty program that serves to minimize workers' comp and disability costs and keep trained and experienced workers on the job while reinforcing the district's commitment to employee welfare. The essential job analysis identifies the essential functions and physical abilities required to perform them for certificated and classified positions. The analysis are an imperative tool for use when the district is faced with the legal obligation or request to accommodate a disabled/injured person, applicant, or employee. The interactive accommodation process will provide for continued engagement through the application process, employment, and while former employees are on the 39-month reemployment list. This agreement is effective from August 21, 2026 through June 30, 2027. Fiscal impact of a professional services agreement with Shaw HR Consulting to perform ongoing services would be in the amount not to exceed $40,000. It is a recommendation of district administration and that the Board of Trustees approve the agreement for professional services for Shaw HR Consulting as presented.
Thank you, Mr. LaBelle. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the agreement?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Dr. Weisberg.
A couple of follow-up questions. So, one, is it possible to get a report back at the end of the year if there are savings that we have been able to accrue due to this? And is this a one-time only, or is this something we're going to have to do annually?
So the report, I don't know how we would actually identify and document that.
Okay.
And the reason being is, this consulting group would be used in cases that would be potentially making a decision on can an employee permanently be accommodated, or if we have to have them go off completely.
Okay.
So there's not it's a case by case thing.
Okay. I was responding to that part of the.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's in those complex situations that could clearly be litigious. And we also want to make sure we do right by our employees.
For sure.
This company would be able to assist from a very professional stance.
And is it standard for districts to contract like this, or is it usually done with in-house counsel or a district employee?
It's relatively typical on complex cases
Okay.
to have a company like this available. So the goal of this is not to replace the day-to-day interaction between the Human Resources Department employees and our labor partners. But if there's a complex case, is where this would be used.
So essentially, it's almost like a retainer.
Yes.
Okay. And so this would be something that we would be doing in perpetuity. This isn't like a one time, we're assuming we'll have this person on retainer, or this company on retainer.
That's a best practice in human resources. Yes.
Thank you.
We have them much.
Great. Thank you.
Was that your question, Ms. Cotto?
No, I just, when I read this, I thought, well, what do we have right now and how far off are we right now? So we've already had them before.
So my understanding, without being here last year, is they did quite a bit of our interactive processes. I believe that current staff, mostly myself, will be doing the majority of that now, which should decrease the amount needed based on the occasions when it is a highly complex scenario. We might bring in assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Olson, did you have something?
I just wanted to see, I know you're so new, but I did notice that we had used them before. And I was just curious if the estimate of $40,000 a year, if it's because we've danced at that number before, or kind of where that number came from.
My understanding is that's the same as it was last year. But I can tell you that we've probably done 30 so far this year, and we have not engaged them. They are engaged in a current one that is extended back from before, but we have not had the need to.
Thank you.
So this is a case where we would get billed against that up to amount as we're doing cases with them. Okay, that's helpful. And then I think when we approved this last year, I believe my understanding of it at least was that it was a combination of kind of direct services and some amount of training for in-house staff. Is that true? Or should we expect to kind of always have this external resource?
I cannot speak to the training from before.
Mhm.
Arrogantly think I'm confident to do this work. And I have done it in the past. But again, in certain legal potential scenarios that are making life-changing decisions for employees, it's best practice to get an expert.
Great, thank you. Anything else to add, colleagues? Okay. It was moved by Dr. Iaconi and seconded by trustee Olson to approve the agreement of professional services with Shaw HR Consulting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. 13C, consideration of approval of district core value statements. Dr. McCoy.
Thank you, President Ponser, Camcar, trustees, staff, and guests. Before the board is item 13C, consideration of approval of district core values. During the special board meeting of August 1st, 2026, the board considered and discussed the 2019 core value statements and recommended updates and changes. Tonight, the board will discuss and consider approval of the updated district core values. It is the recommendation of district administration that the board approve the district core values as presented. However, if trustees would like to make additional recommendations during discussion, we're certainly still open to that. And then do you want me to read them first or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so right now the draft for our core values, and just to explain a little bit to the public and the community, the core values are umbrellaed over all the district's operations. So these are going to be our broadest, most applicable goals to all of our programs, services, and everything that we do for kids. Tonight, later on the agenda, we'll talk a little bit about board goals, which are operational, implementable goals that will measure during the school year and then determine how we fared on those goals. So this is a big picture in the core values, and our current 4 core values that are proposed are Burbank Unified School District prioritizes student learning, health, and wellness. Burbank Unified School District values meaningful family and caregiver involvement and recognizes timely communication as a foundation for student success and community collaboration. Burbank Unified School District recruits and retains highly qualified, talented staff who believe in the true capacity of our students and the strength of our families. Burbank Unified School District values and celebrates the cultural and human diversity of our students, families, and staff, and recognizes diversity as fundamental to creating welcoming and supportive classrooms and schools.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to approve these, and then we'll do discussion and
So
full
moved.
amendments? Okay. All right, discussion on this one. Do you mind if I start actually, Dr. Weisberg? Okay. So thank you for putting these together. And I know this was an update to what we had from 2019, and we had an extensive conversation about this on the first. And I think what I'd like for us to think about as we adopt or amend these is really just how kind of who and who they're for and what they're for, right? And so as I've gone through the exercise of putting together core values at organizations, the idea is that you can develop a shared language within an organization to be able to say, like, when we make a decision, are we upholding a particular value, right? So that when we're faced with tough decisions, we can say, are we upholding our value of communicating with families and caregivers when we make a decision about ATB the day before school? And maybe we can say, oh, actually, maybe we need to rethink this, right? And so, and that is an example of a time when, like, having really clear core values and shared language around them would be really important. The other place is when we're thinking about who we bring into the team, right? And so what I'd love to think about too is how do these then translate into like job descriptions, for example, and how each person's role in the district has a place in essentially each one of these. And that then we're holding them accountable for upholding those values. And so I think it's not that I disagree with any of them, and I don't know what I'm missing, but that's kind of how I'm approaching this. Is really, I just want to make sure that as we think about this is really for the district as an organization, it's really about kind of internal, it is about telling the community what we're about, but it's really about internal operations, right? And so I'm kind of looking to staff to kind of say like, is this going to help you? Rather than be kind of something generic that gets put on a website.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, what I would tell you is the importance of core values is to lens those through the district operations through the board goals. So when you see the board goal item, you'll see that we refer back to the core values as foundational for the particular board goals that we're recommending. But it really does help us understand how we're making decisions and why we're making decisions. So one of the questions I always ask folks in schools is, why do you do the work you do and why do you do it here? And so part of what we're trying to answer is the organization itself. Why do we do the work we do and why do we do it here? And those are sort of the foundational questions that help us then organize the rest of the work. So you'll hear me say a lot, we need to keep kids in the center, and what's good for kids is hard for grownups. When we have core values that lead with, we prioritize student learning, health, and wellness. It helps us at times when a decision is designed to support adults and maybe doesn't meet the needs of the students. And so when we look back to the core value and we say, we have to make a decision and this is what our grownups want, but this is what our kids need. These are the statements that help us as that North Star, as that guide back to why do we do the work we do and why do we do it here? And so I think these are important because they apply broadly. So I think that the more specific a core value is, the more difficult it is to apply across the system and to all our operations. And I've told some folks I had a chance to meet with our staff here at Olive and business services and human resources and instructional services, all the folks who make the engine go. And we asked those questions of ourselves, but really said, you know, when you go by an elementary school and you see a student on the yard and they're playing kickball, you ordered the kickball, you procured the kickball, you delivered the kickball. That's why we're working on behalf of students, no matter what role we hold in the organization. And I feel like these give us a broad ability to have that conversation.
Dr. Weisberg?
Yeah, I think about it like backwards planning, right? Like, are the choices we making, are they supporting these things? And if they're not, then why are we making them? My literal only piece of amendment is that some of these have periods at the end and some do not. And I'm sorry, former English teacher. I just want us to be as professional as we can be. And so that is, I think we spent a really great amount of time in both our governance retreat and in previous meetings talking through the content. I think these represent the things that we want to focus on and that they all either need or all don't need a period at the end.
But I think that's, one thing, right? When we talked about kind of existing values versus aspirational values was one of our conversations that we had at the governance retreat. It's like, details matter, right? And so, like that's not on the core values list, but it could be if we said like, it really matters that we get it right and we get it right the first time. And maybe that fits under the idea of having highly qualified, talented staff who believe in the capacity of our students, right? But, and so that's then, trying to figure out like, how is the feedback that we're giving even tied back into those core values? I'm going to go to Ms. Olson and then Ms. Kano.
Thank you, Madam President, for sort of setting the stage on that discussion piece around sort of, I think like the essence of how we will use these, but I'm also looking to see, again, a little bit more operational energy in here. Like I took a second to reflect and looked at these values against the superintendent. What is it called? No, the report that was provided by
profile
ESS, the profile. Thank you, the district profile, and truthfully, it it did a good job in that we value our workforce so highly in that report. And I think that comes out in these values. And then also the idea of communication as a weakness we've had. That is something that's more, prominent. And then diversity is something that's a stronghold that we want to continue to grow. I think that piece that's missing for me is how do we have it as a core value that is representative of the board all the way down on sort of that trust but verify idea of like, hey, we want to think, we want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. We want to assume best of everyone, but we all want to hold each other accountable. I feel like that's the piece, the only core value that I found out of our district report that I didn't feel coming out of those values. And again, I don't have some perfect core value that I'm like, here, I'd like to present for everyone. I just sort of wanted to bring it up as a way for all of us to just reflect on the last year or so and be like, what are the things that are missing from these values that we can add, knowing that these should not be looked at every 7 years. Like and Dr. McCoy, I'd love for you to speak on this, that we should be rediscussing this every 3 years or 2 years so that we're just sort of staying up with what matters.
I'll let you go, Dr. McCoy, and then Ms. Kano.
Yeah, and what I would say, if you were to add sort of a brief accountability statement, it would probably be in the first core value where we say prioritizes student learning, health, and wellness through multiple measures of accountability might be something that we could add, because then that speaks to not just a state indicator that may or may not tell our whole story, but it also speaks to how we hold ourselves accountable and how we hold one another accountable. So we could add to the first one, prioritize student learning, health, and wellness through multiple measures of accountability. I would also agree that you don't want core values that are just a poster on the wall of the third floor of 1900 West Olive. So I think part of it too is knowing as a governance team when the core values seem to no longer apply, right? And then having that moment, and whether it's a schedule, and every 2 years we say to ourselves in that opening retreat or that governance workshop where we say, let's start with core values. And I think annually we would want to ask ourselves, is this where we are today? And how can we meet that moment? I think prior to COVID, we didn't see wellness in anyone's core values. And then post-COVID, wellness is in our top 3 all the time, if not top 2, right? Because of everybody's needs. So that's an example where, as superintendent, I would recommend annually we look and take that sort of test. Is this where we are today, and what would we add?
Ms. Kano and then Dr. Weisberg.
Okay. I'm doing a little pivot right now though, but so when we're talking, I like the word accountability that we don't really have in there, but is accountability a value, or is that one of our goals?
That's a great question.
One of the things that I had written down, actually, I had also written down something about accountability, and I think it was in my mind, it was that we have staff that or that we as a district take accountability for our role in the community.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we can say, oh, I value accountability, but we're talking about, because like what Ms. Olson said, in terms of the ideas in terms of operationalizing, then it sounds like we're talking about the operational, the O word, with
operationalization
of accountability. So
Mhm.
that seems like it would actually almost be a goal, because it's something we're doing, as opposed to saying, I just value accountability. Yeah, I was thinking under.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think when you see the board goal, we're clearly going to have some accountability measures that are built in with some numerical targets, but also a lot of qualitative measures, because we're a feeling place. We're not just a statistics place. And and I'm qualitative by nature. I don't know if that's like a good quote that I could use later, but I keep quantitative people close so they can help me along. But it's really about Are we measuring through conversation, communication, and feeling how the values are operationalizing? But I would say that you could safely add accountability through multiple measures, and then you're operationalizing. Remember, we're trying to operationalize goals through the board goals, next level down. But this gives us that umbrella under with which to work.
You don't need to, he did.
I know.
Dr. Weisberg.
One of the ways I think that it would be helpful for us to revisit these district values, I'm just trying to pull it up, would be to, when we do the employee surveys to ask them how they're feeling about things. One, if we're going to keep asking our employees to do surveys, we really need to share the results with them. But two, that we ask them if they think the district values are represented in the decisions that we're making. Because often I feel like they're going to be a much better judge of, are we actually valuing these things? Because, I think Miss Olson, Dr. Mr. Sea Captain Olson was talked about how in the leadership, in the leadership profile, we talk about valuing our employees, but I would say if we're being truthful, I don't know if our employees feel valued right now. And so to me, asking them, do you feel like these core values are represented in, however, I think that could be, for at least for me as a board member, really helpful to sort of check myself, right? If I think we're doing a great job and the people that are doing the work on the ground are telling me you're not meeting this, and I need to ask myself why my perception is so far from other people's feeling about it. So again, this doesn't mean it gives us the feedback we need. So rather than sort of reflecting on it, we're actually hearing from people, do they feel like those values are being operationalized every day? No, not like that. I'm okay with the values, because I do think the more general we are, the more space it gives us because everything should fit into these, right? And I would hesitate only about including the multiple measures in the first value, because then it sounds like just about, we're doing that just to our students, just the verbiage of it. And I don't want it to seem like we're doing, it's not up to the kids. So again, I think these make sense to me, but if we're thinking about how can we keep them relevant, how can we be checking ourselves and asking ourselves where we're at, that's a conversation we should involve our classified and certificated staff members and management and everybody else in, because what better way to keep ourselves accountable?
Dr. Akani and then Ms. Wilson.
I understand, but at the same time, we're talking about core values here, everyone. Feedback is one thing. If you do the values properly and it's practiced as general as these are, which are wonderful, I think the feedback will come. I think we should focus separately on the communication factor of it in terms of how we're really practicing our values. Whereas if you're going to change values every 2 years, then that's not the way values work. I'm sorry. I think goals, I think you're mixing values and goals. And I think to me, these are it's like the Constitution, we the people. It's pretty stretchy. So district prioritizes student learning. I mean, of course. And these are the things that we need to establish so everyone else knows. But also it's important when people look into the district, having these core values that are so universal sets a standard. But let's not talk about every 2 or 3 years we need to change our core values, or the feedback is important, but feedback is, to me, we need to improve the communication. So if this improves that, great, but I think to me, those are two separate things. It's just my opinion.
No, I appreciate that. I think the suggestion that I heard was less about changing them every 2 years and more of like reaffirming.
Yeah.
Right? That we're looking at it, that these are still that these are still relevant, right? And if I heard Dr. Weisberg's comment correctly about employee feedback, it was really just another way to measure whether we're adhering to these values, right? It wasn't necessarily about getting more feedback on these values, which again, as we've said, are really a revision of a version that's been around since 2019 and are not wildly out of place with, I think, what most school districts would be my guess. Dr. McCoy and then Ms. Olson. Okay.
I just wanted to come back to the suggestion around adding accountability with student learning that I think that the first core value, I think that's great. Because it's literally one word and I want it to mean a promise that in order to ensure that we're prioritizing student learning, health and wellness, accountability is folded into that. And so it might be a sort of semantic stance on making sure you're right. We don't want it to echo that the students are being held accountable for their own.
Or only students.
Yes. But I think that just sort of gives me the spirit of like moving forward, being proactive and taking in reflection to what has happened since 2019 and making sure it's echoed in there. The only other thing that I would have as feedback that I just didn't share before is just sort of progress, and that I read back to our challenges in that report of that we need to reoperationalize and we need to challenge ourselves and push ourselves a little bit more. And so again, I'm not having a perfect suggestion here on a word, but I just, and this also, I do feel like can come out way more in our goals, but I just, as I was reflecting on the core values to that report, that was the only other thing to me that felt like it was absent. But I think Dr. McCoy, your suggestion for just the word and accountability in the first one is great.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So hearing the discussion around the dais, the board may want to consider Burbank Unified School District prioritizes student learning, health and wellness, and will hold ourselves accountable for student success.
Ooh.
And that means that's our all in. Yeah, just as a thought. Sure. It would consider a change to add Burbank Unified School District prioritizes student learning, health and wellness, and will hold ourselves accountable for student success.
Could I make a
Period.
or not? I mean, let's get
long as it's
fancy. Let's semicolon it up, you know? What about saying and we'll hold ourselves what's accountable, you said, for student success and prioritize, like, I guess we could say success. I was trying to figure out a way to say all three of those things.
I think what's in my head is just learning plus health plus wellness equals success.
Okay. Yep.
I like it.
I'll take it.
And I just like the feeling of all in. I like it.
Yep. Okay. So then it would be amended. And Dr. Weisberg, you're the one who made the amendment. So do you accept the amendment of adding and use it? No. And we'll hold ourselves accountable for student success to the beginning of the first core value?
Indeed, I do.
And is that okay with you, Dr. Agapanian? You were the second? Sure.
Certainly. Burbank Unified School District prioritizes student learning, health and wellness, and will hold ourselves accountable for student success.
Is that a second? Okay, thank you. All right. Moved by Dr. Weisberg, seconded by Dr. Agapanian to approve as amended the district core value statements. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. All right. 13D, consideration of approval of the 2026-2027 board goals. Dr. McCoy.
Thank you, President Ponser-Kamkar. Thank you, trustees, staff, and guests. Before the board on item 13D is a consideration of approval of 26-27 board goals. To align the work of the district in the evaluation of the superintendent, the board annually adopts board goals that provide direction to superintendent and staff for the school year. Tonight, the board will discuss and consider approval of the board goals for 26-27. It's the recommendation of district administration that the board approve the 26-27 board goals as presented, but just as in our last item, if there is interest in getting into the goals and amending them, then staff is certainly open to that. And then do you want me to read through them?
I don't know that we need to
Okay.
read through them. Let's do a motion in a second first.
Oh, second.
Thank you. All right, discussion on the board goals. Dr. Weisberg.
I don't know if this is a Dr. Macias question or Dr. McCoy question, but in reading through just I'll start with board goal 1. Looking at the increased completion of A through G course requirements by 1% to 50%, and then 2% to 57%, maintaining a 97% graduation rate. I want to make sure that these are realistic goals that we are going to be able to meet. And that's not a lack of faith in instruction or our phenomenal teachers. It's just a question, making sure that what we're putting in writing are things we feel are achievable.
The short answer is yes. We deliberated quite a bit in instructional services. We shared with the cabinet. We have a lot of confidence that these are very attainable and reachable.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Before I go to you, Dr. Arakanian, Dr. McCoy, can you share how these were put together?
Certainly, we looked at the year 3 LCAP goals that were achieved last year and looked at what the following school year, meaning 26-27, these were our stated goals in the LCAP. And so the instructional services team analyzed those and then recommended that we include these as our measurables for this year's board goals. Obviously, our goal is to achieve greater than. This will also be the starting point for the LCAP committee as they develop the new 3-year LCAP, meaning this would be the first, the starting point to then achieve from these stated goals for the next 3 years.
And okay, let's just stay on board goal 1 then. So that's really helpful. So the first kind of 2 here where they're measurable are coming directly from LCAP.
Yes.
Dr. Arakanian?
Yeah, so regarding these numbers and the fact that we just amended our values to be held responsible, who will be responsible if these goals are not met?
The superintendent, actually. So what these goals also become the superintendent's goals for his evaluation. And so
This will automatically transfer into your evaluation.
that's what we've been discussing, is that these are and where that helps is that there's no mystery as to what our goals are for me, which is to help guide us to these achievements.
But I think that's really good context, right? As we think about, I appreciate that question, Dr. Arakanian, because I do think it's worth thinking about how these then translate into Dr. McCoy's evaluation at the end of or mid-year and at the end of the year, and whether these all make sense for that. Anything else on? I want to kind of go through goal by goal. So anything else on goal 1, which is our. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to make a clarification at the start of what felt missing to me was when. Like, is this by 2028? Is this by the end of LCAP? When is this?
So our board goals are annual.
Okay.
So what we would do is, and obviously we don't receive all the data on a good timeline, but what we will do is at your board retreat in August next year, we would respond in writing and in a presentation to all the stated goals to let you know our progress to goals and what we achieved, or if we missed anything, to try and understand why and what action steps we would take to remediate. What's interesting about board goals, over time, there would be goals that you might remove from the goals if they're consistently achieved. Other goals will remain year after year as we try and increase and improve A to G, 3rd grade literacy, middle school math achievement, which creates greater high school math achievement. So these are a mix of quantitative and qualitative goals, but they should be considered for one school year.
Dr. Weisberg, and then, sorry.
I just really surprisingly want to say that I have some basic grammar punctuation-y type thingies. I'm not going to share from the dais, but I'll send to you.
Understood.
But I have some deeply moving content discussions as we move further along.
It's kind of. On goal 1. I just wanted to, okay, that we can move to 2 though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Want to clarify that that's our board goal, is these going up, say 1% and such, but by school, they may have different numbers based on how they're doing. So I just want people to understand that by school, you have based on what you are doing so that you're contributing to the overall of what's happening with the district. But you're not going to say, oh, my school's going to this, you know what I'm saying? You're not just locked into that. Every school has got their goals. Our board goal is this bigger.
Yes, these goals would be sort of rolled up from the entire district.
Sullivan?
Sorry, I didn't finish, but did I cut you off? Oh, go ahead.
And if it's okay, I think you bring up a very good point, Trustee Cano, is that's the coherence we're hoping to establish with our school plans for student achievement with the overarching goals that we have, and we'll see that play out.
Thank you, Dr. Macias. Ms. Olson?
I guess this note is a little bit generalized, because I feel like the goals in general to me are a sort of mixed narrative of the goal, the metrics, and the strategy. And I would love to break that out, because I know for me that just sort of helps understand not just what we're trying to achieve, but the component of the how that's really in there. So like, for example, for board goal 1, to me, the goal is, accelerating the student learning with the nice words and all of the pieces, with the specific emphasis on metrics for students with disabilities, English learners, and those facing economic hardship, et cetera. But then we have the outcomes we're going for, and then we note the strategies of being instructional excellence and professional development, and then the kind of future ready agility of making sure we form that committee and we get the voice for everybody on technology. And so I just feel like, and that structure could be modeled if you look at all of them. This one is the meatiest for sure, but I just sort of wanted to suggest the idea of chunking it out that way, because not every single one will have such pretty quantitative metrics, but still something that we could aim to measure by. I can give examples further, but I just wanted to get everybody's feeling on maybe writing it out that way.
Well, so
it's not really a question.
No, so if I can paraphrase, and because I think I was trying to get over the same hump, and then what I was really thinking about was I want to make sure that when we have goals, that at the end of the year, we're not saying like, well, did we do it? How do we know if we did it? How do we know if the ones that are tied to LCAP are really clear because we have quantitative measurements. And so, the last two on this one, so providing professional development on promoting inquiry the promote inquiry and access. That one is a little bit harder to say, like, did we do it or not? Because it's like, either like, I guess we did or did not provide professional development. Yeah. And it's like, so, which is fine. And then this last one, it's really like, did we make a recommendation, or did staff make a recommendation on learning management systems, classroom technology programs, and the district's approach to screen time and artificial intelligence, right? Like, we're going to be you all are going to be next year saying, okay, did we receive board reports on these items, essentially, right? Like, you're going to need to show your work, is I think where I'm getting with this. And as long as it's clear to staff what you're going to need to show to show that you did this, then I'm okay with it. But I was working on the same kind of wavelength as you are.
Yeah, and what I would say to that is that's why it's important that these are evaluation goals. So you're going to have quantitative data sets, but also narratives and also presentations, and also essentially professional development would be presented back with on October 1st. This professional development happened October 10th, October 12th. Here's the minutes from Math Advisory Committee, from the ELA Advisory Committee, the ELD Advisory Committee, and you end up with qualitative pieces of data that are harder to put in a narrative, but also can be presented as exhibits. And so what's really important is thinking about it potentially in a way where if we're going to support reading, writing, speaking, and academic vocabulary and mathematical literacy, then our professional development that we present that we can then inform the board about supports reading, writing, speaking, academic vocabulary, mathematical literacy. And access includes how we're reaching out to our students with disabilities, English learners, and students facing economic hardship. So over time, you can triangulate, for example, if A to G goes up, but our students learning English don't see the same rate of return, then we could look at, well, when we did professional development, did we specifically address what English learners need? Did we specifically work with our special education experts to provide general education teachers information on how to access lessons that we may not typically provide in the general ed PD? So these really become a more holistic report, so to speak, of here's quantitative results, but here's exhibits. And then some of these end up being interviews. So like if you have a technology advisory committee and no board presentation comes back and you don't hear from the variety of members of the tech advisory committee, then that's a zero-sum game, you know? So I think you're right to point out that we will measure these in different ways and report them in different ways. And I think that's part of, in schools in particular, when we talk about our, you know, we have some feelings happening, that's what that committee's for, right? To talk about it. And if we have a goal to talk about screen time and AI, then as hard as the conversations are, we're going to have those conversations and get everything on the table and see. Then potentially in the next year, when you redo board goals, then we have a more specific approach, like we are going to measure screen time. We're going to have this much or this much more. We have a committee that's going to validate the type of tools that we use with VTA partners and with parents and with community. I mean, depending on how we want to cast it out. So I think there's a lot of different ways to get at the measurements.
So let's move on to number 2, which is more about wellness for students. Feedback on these, Dr. Weisberger.
I have 2 things that aren't good. When we say at the very beginning that celebrates and promotes trusting relationships, can I just ask for clarification about with whom? Is this is it student relationships? Is it student and teacher relationships? Do we need to get more specific? Am I being ridiculous?
I don't think you're being ridiculous.
Thank you so much.
I think it speaks to the importance of all the systemic relationships that make the district healthy.
Okay.
So
could we say within the district and promotes trusting relationships? We may not need to, but I think that clarification is helpful to me. The other thing, and this may not belong here, but one of the issues that I know has been challenging for us in regards to suspensions and expulsions is a lack of consistent and uniform reporting. Is every school site coding things the same way? Are they all reporting issues the same way? Is discipline being, consistently? So that is something that has been a struggle. And so I don't know if if that needs to go, something about consistent and uniform reporting needs to be in here, or it's just because I don't want to get so prescriptive that we list every single way we can do things, because that's why we have trusted professionals. But that is something that I know has prevented us from doing the best possible work we can do on this issue. And I know it's something that our instructional team has prioritized for a really long time.
So I can just chime in for a moment. Please watch my airtime. So on the overarching goal, every student receives access to connection and wellness supports and services in a healthy learning environment that celebrates and promotes trusting relationships within the district, is a suggestion. And then on the first one where we talk about suspensions and expulsions, we could add after the word expulsions through consistent reporting practices.
Yeah, I like that.
And then that gives us a guide with our student services team to create a system around what reporting is and what it is reported and how it's reported.
Dr. Akani?
Going back to my first point again. Consistency. If they're not consistent, who is held responsible for not being consistent? Because because that is important if we're gonna make this, and this is a big change. But
So again, this would go into Dr. McCoy's evaluation, right? This would be what we evaluate him on mid-year and at the end of the year. I would also say that then these become things that other groups of staff that have a real stake in this, that they become accountable to as well, right? So if we put a stake in the ground and say we want consistent reporting and a decrease in suspensions and expulsions, that's something that the superintendent is ultimately accountable to, but that our student services team and our school site staffs need to know that that's a goal that we're setting so that they're also moving in that same direction.
Now, Dr. McCoy, how are you gonna set up consistency?
So the good news for the assistant superintendent table is that these goals are shared. And so with the evaluation process for the assistant superintendents, they may not have every board goal and sub goal in their evaluation, but for that division which is tasked with that effort, that would be part of their accountability. And so we work as a team. We even have a vehicle that we all fit in, thanks to Dr. Macias, which we appreciate, the mobile administrative unit. It's his personal vehicle, but he knew to get enough seats to hold all of us. So it's really about our weekly efforts to work together. Matt has to sit in the front right. I'm sorry for digressing there.
That was my
It's
first
important to
question.
share the
Yeah.
seating arrangements of our mobile.
Yeah, so this is his personal vehicle, just to be clear. But one of the things we do weekly that is important is we meet weekly to discuss all the aspects of the district's divisions and how we're progressing to solve problems and how we're trying to achieve the goals once they're set. So we will be regularly discussing not just from the perspective of Ms. James McIntosh around suspension, expulsion, consistent data collection, wellness programming, but how we're all participating from the fiscal side, the HR side, instructional side, and all those activities. And so one thing that the team knows that I explain to them and we do all the time is we Venn diagram it. Though we have individual responsibilities, if we don't work together to problem solve, then we're solving a problem here that's creating a problem here. And I think that's part of the issue we're solving in BUSD is that we're all accountable to one another. And as we solve a problem, we all have to take part in that responsibility.
Just follow up on that also. We get a photo of all of you, how you fit in the car after as a report for the next board meeting. I'm just curious, and not about
Sure.
on regular basis.
Miss Olson.
Can I like some of the edits we've already made. Like after you were speaking, Dr. Weisberg, the word just like cohesion kept coming up for me. I don't know if that's something we want to, but for me, that speaks to sort of this, like that connective tissue between all of the different things, like just like you were talking about, Dr. McCoy. But I wanted to see if I could trickle in some other metrics to this one. I think that when we look at wellness and services, I want to think about not just reducing suspensions, but increasing attendance. That sort of sense of belonging and people showing up, I think is a really important way to look at this. And then I know this sort of ties to communication as well, and maybe that goes somewhere else, but student participation in those surveys, metrics, engagement in our committees, I think those are also things we can add to this goal. If not explicitly, but somewhere. And then the only thing I was just a little confused by was the word develop approaches to student accountability. I feel like that could be sorry, those were a couple too. What? develop approaches to student accountability. Like, so it's accountability on behalf of students, not the students themselves. Literally like to the first value that we were talking about. Yeah.
No, I don't.
Or did I get that?
Yeah, so
Am I
in
missing
this
something?
respect, I think maybe the word for instead of to would be more descriptive, but old school, we call it student discipline, and new school, we
Now I
we
understand.
call it student accountability. So we know that young people at times make mistakes. And what we want to do is have an approach when mistakes are made that prioritizes restoration and moving ahead in a positive way rather than punishment and time for time. So
I understand.
what I would tell you as one person is I eliminated every time for time punishment as a high school principal because it doesn't work. But when we had real conversations with a trusted adult, when we have other ways to engage students and re-engage them in their education, that's the secret to having a really positive campus culture and to lowering discipline incidents. Is it's not you did this, you're bad, we punish you, but it's this happened and what happens next, kind of like what we're doing system wide. And then how do we re-engage students in their own education in a way that's positive to them? So when we say develop approaches potentially for student accountability that prioritize restorative intervention, provide opportunities with trusted adults, we're trying to get to a place where we're accounting for developmental growth from our students, and we're not expecting a 14-year-old boy to act like he would when he's 34 years old, right? We need him to be able to grow through what he goes through.
I really do appreciate the idea of having an attendance measure here, though, whether it's attendance or chronic absenteeism or something else there. And I don't know what's already in our LCAP for that. That may be something that we could pull from there. But I think that's a great one because that's a great way to measure whether students are engaged and connecting. Can we move on to number 3? Okay. Dr. Weisberg.
Just add the word proactive. So providing engaging communication, I think proactive is a really important word to include here since it is need be a big focus for us. I don't know if we need to do it in both places, first and last sentence of board goal, but having it somewhere feels important.
Ms. Olson?
I think kind of to your statement, Madam President, in our values about our responsibility to the community, I feel like this is the place where I feel like we could add that. And again, I think that has a lot to do with communication, but it has a lot to do with showing up too, and participation in the community. And so I don't know exactly, again, the semantics of where we want to add that, but I was just curious if we wanted to put that piece in here.
Give me an example of what you're thinking about.
Yeah. So I think I brought this up, like downtown Burbank has art fairs like often and festivals, and we need to have a booth presence there. It's an opportunity to communicate with people in the community, parents, families that are attending, and showing up there and being a part of that is something where I feel like we could hold ourselves accountable to doing more of. This community is so like alive in the amount of things that it's doing, and alongside the conversation about just ongoing partnerships with the city council and all of the chamber of commerce, the nonprofits. So I don't know if we want to provide sort of a tangible of, I know that very much links to the kind of PIO role, but yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking as an example.
Yeah, I wonder if within that second bullet of maintaining a consistent social media presence, it might be maintaining a consistent physical and social media presence, right? That we're not just posting about things online, but that the district is physically actually present for things. Ms. Cano, thoughts?
All right. Well, it seems like some of it, I just don't want us to get so bogged down, kind of in this quagmire of like, we have to have everything in there. I mean, these are just goals. So in terms of, again, how we operationalize these things.
Very good.
Some of those things like the first, we maintain a consistent social media presence and, and site events. So, I mean, doesn't some of that take into consideration that so that we'll be at August 1st.
We didn't write these
Yeah,
August
these,
1st.
these are coming
came
to you
back.
for the first.
This is the first time we're saying them. Don't worry.
Did we see these?
It's-
I know we saw the
I
value.
have a, maybe,
ahead, Dr.
maybe a
McCoy.
suggestion on goal 3. So provide engaging, proactive communication. And at the last one, provide timely, proactive district communications. And then to add a bullet that essentially says participate as an engaged partner in community events. And that gives us a broad way to try and achieve that both for students and for staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and the last is board goal number 4. I will say I appreciated the inclusion of avoiding deficit spending for the current fiscal year and 2 years that follow. I know that that was a goal that this board set last year and got significantly closer to it. I don't, for some reason, the idea of the word avoid doesn't speak to me, but I could try. The second bullet here, implement effective fiscal practices. Yes. Develop balanced budgets. Yes. And avoid deficit spending for the current fiscal year and 2 fiscal years that follow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it
I
sounds
mean,
more
what
like
if,
about
I'm
intention.
sorry, I mean, I didn't expect to pay so much for meat and egg last year. Now I have to avoid buying, avoiding deficit is difficult because we don't know what's coming. What if the budget changes?
Well, but we have to make a budget.
Yeah.
Right? We shouldn't be planning to have a deficit spend, which is what this, I think, what the intention of this is.
I mean, don't we all?
I
We want to use the word avoid deficit spending?
Well, I think you could consider the word
Yes, I know.
plan to eliminate,
Yes,
or
I like that.
I think that gives us a chance to meet the moment. So, if we get a good budget in January, we have one plan. If we get a bad budget in January, we have another plan. If Prop 3 passes, we have one plan. If it fails, we have another plan. So if we
What was the wording again?
if we said implement efficient fiscal practices that develop balanced budgets and plan to eliminate deficit spending for the current fiscal year and the 2 fiscal years that follow.
Yeah, I think that
I like that.
that meets my needs for that one, because I think just the idea of putting together a plan that we know has deficit spending,
No.
this board cannot continue to do.
Right.
Anything else on number 4?
Um,
Ms. Olson?
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
So the word modernize HR system, and the reason I say this because, for example, not HR, but accounting, there was a program, there was a problem with what the county was offering and us and bringing. So it wasn't really a question of modernization. It was also a question of arcade systems from the other side. So can we say modernizing HR system for records keeping and develop timeline? But should we also add accounting and finance?
So we were trying to cover the accounting and finance upgrades in the implement efficient fiscal practices.
Okay.
Because that gives us some room to move on our, and we'll bring to the board, we have an 18-month plan to move from the 2 financial systems we use to 1. It's going to take us some time. We're working with LA County Office on the implementation of the human capital management in HR. But I would tell you, as one person who's on your team, modernize is a very important word with our HR systems. And that is a goal that we should be able to provide you a lot of data on our efforts to improve.
When we're on the hook for human capital management system upgrade with this county this year? Is it this year or is it next year? It's this current.
This year, we have employees training as we.
Okay, that's what I thought. Great. And I think I I just wonder, in terms of the implementing efficient fiscal practices, I don't know that it needs to be in here, but I would assume that some of that is as measured by the scorecard that Dr. Hasty showed last time, right? And an improvement on that. And
Yeah.
we can name that if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would suggest that you're going to have with your interim budget reports, your unaudited actuals, first interim, second interim, and adopted budget. Those will be the reporting times for our fiscal practice. And what Dr. Hasty and I have been talking about, and we've been discussing in cabinet, is to address some of the plan upgrades and the fiscal upgrades that we are underway with during the interim budget reports. So when you see unaudited actuals, we want to talk to you about our timeline to implement one financial system instead of two, just on one slide. When we get to first interim budget, we want to talk to you about our plans around position control that are underway and be able to show you our new position control efforts and systems that are underway. So this will have already defined regular check-ins for the board for board goal number 4.
Ms. Wilson?
My only thing was to add sort of like an increase to that FICMAT score. But again, I mean, you sort of already brought it up, but I prefer Dr. Hasty's like grading score versus theirs. It's very confusing. So I don't know if it's a smart thing to add as a specific goal, but that was the only metric I was going to ask.
Yeah, I would suggest our most important goal is the current year and the 2 out year projection of positive, qualified, or negative. I think a lot of the reason the district received the letter of going concern were system issues and personnel issues. And so part of our and position control, and those are all underway. So that will be a regular part of our progress report, but there will be a point where we sunset the FICMAT score and go back to the LA County score of positive,
Oh, I mean,
qualified, and
then do
negative.
we make it as simple as having a qualified score?
Positive.
Sorry.
Positive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this allows us to get there, because if the good, and this is what's been lost in translation a little bit in our budget discussion, the district has never not had a positive score on their budget. And most of the time when you go qualified, it's because you can't pay your bills in the 3rd year. And we're not in that situation. Our deficit spending is against reserves. Those reserves need to be shored up, which will happen when we eliminate deficit spending. So there was never a condition where the district could not meet its obligations in any of the years, but there were all these other conditions that caused our ratings. So when we bring these interim budget reports to you, they'll include, again, those system updates that we're making to shore up our practices.
And do we want to state what the reserve cap is? Also, so in case people know that.
Yeah, we
certain percentage, that's what we have to do.
Yeah, we'll include some information on that if we're getting close to the cap. Just for the general public, the state only allows us to hold a certain amount of money in reserve, which because some districts will hold money in reserve and not spend it on students. And so there is a state law that requires us only to hold a certain amount of money in reserve. That's called the reserve cap. In certain budget years, they release the cap and let you to save more for a rainy day. In other years, they implement the cap, and it's really an annual decision by the legislature and the governor. So that will be part of our discussion with the board when you bring interim budget reports.
I would also, I know I was the one who brought up, like, do we put in the fiscal score? But I'm also reminding myself that the score on the fiscal health assessment, the positive budget certification, those all then become pieces of evidence in Dr. McCoy's evaluation and Dr. Hasty's evaluation when he is getting evaluated by Dr. McCoy, right? And so I don't know that you could do this goal without having those as your evidence. So I think that's this is good as it is. So we've made a couple of amendments. Do you want to go through what you've got as amendments?
Yes. So these are the suggested amendments that could be considered in an amended motion. In board goal 1, don't think we had any changes.
I think the only adjustment that I noted was that we need to make sure that the core value reflects the adjustment that we made to the core values around accountability.
Yeah, the core values,
But other than
core
that-
values will be adjusted. Yes. Okay, board goal 2, we proposed adding within the district to the end of the first sentence, celebrates and promotes trusting relationships within the district. We proposed after the word expulsions, adding through consistent reporting practices. And we will add a 4th bullet marking our already stated attendance improvement goal from the LCAP. And we'll use the language from the LCAP to deliver that. In board goal 3, we're adding the word proactive to engaging proactive communication and provide timely proactive district communications. We're adding a bullet, participate as an engaged partner in community events. And then in board goal 4, and we're adding, instead of avoid deficit spending, we're adding and plan to eliminate deficit spending. And those were the suggested amendments from trustees that I had.
You are the one who made the motion. Do you accept those amendments? And Dr. Weisberg? Okay, great. So it's been moved and seconded, moved by Dr. Agakanian and seconded by Dr. Weisberg to approve the board goals as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for the thorough discussion, colleagues. All right, let's move to 13E, consideration of approval of change of date for the October 22nd regular board meeting to October 29th.
Thank you, President Ponser, Kamkar, trustees, staff, and guests. Before the board, item 13E, consideration of approval, a change of date for the October 22nd, 2026 regular board meeting to October 29, 2026. Annually, the board sets the calendar of regular meetings. For the regular meeting scheduled for Thursday, October 22nd, 2026, 2 trustees of unavoidable conflicts that have recently come to the attention of the district. Staff is recommending the board consider Thursday, October 29th, 2026 as a replacement date for the regular meeting. It is the recommendation of district administration that the board approve a change of date for the October 22nd, 2026 regular meeting to October 29, 2026 as presented.
I get a motion, a second.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Can I just add, does October 29th work for everybody? As someone who had a conflict with the October 22nd one, it does work for me.
Same.
Okay. That's,
Okay. So everybody on the dais can confirm that the 29th works.
okay. Great. Just checking. All right. Moved by Dr. Agakanian, seconded by Dr. Weisberg. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. 13F, consideration of revision of board policy and regulation 40. Your mic is off.
Since we made a change, just want to make sure, because you go to our website, it always shows the regular ones. Can we make sure like
Yes.
goes in immediate? Yeah, so we won't have like last minute.
Yes, it will still be a regular meeting. It will not be a special meeting, but we should make sure that we signpost that it will be on the 29th instead of the 22nd. Thank you for that suggestion. All right, 13F, revision of board policy and regulation 4311, recruitment and selection of management and supervisory personnel. Dr. McCoy.
Thank you, President Ponser, Kamkar, trustees, staff, and guests. Before the board is item 13F, consideration of revision of board policy and regulation 4311, recruitment and selection of management and supervisory personnel. This is a first reading. Annually, the board reviews board policies and regulations and considers revisions to meet the needs of the district and the district stakeholders. Tonight, the board will discuss and consider revisions in a first reading of board policy regulation 4311, recruitment and selection of management and supervisory personnel. It is the recommendation of district administration that the board revise board policy and regulation 4311, recruitment and selection of management and supervisory personnel. This is a first reading as presented.
Oh, we don't need a motion in a second because we're not taking action. Discussion on this item. I just noticed on the first page of the policy, we have been changing our pronouns to be more inclusive. So where it says he, she, if we could have they instead, that would be great. I just see that in the second to last paragraph there, I think.
Yeah.
Other, and just, this is very thorough and I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And my understanding is this is codifying what was in place over the last month and a half as new folks were brought in to make it really clear how we interview, who's participating in panels, what the expectations are, et cetera.
Yeah, so I'm going to have Mr. LaBelle kind of walk us through it a little bit, but essentially one of the concerns we heard loud and clear from district staff is that there was sort of an unknown for the process to select supervisors and managers, both classified and certificated. So one way to codify the process is to ensure it's in a board policy and regulation. We actually have 3 policies around recruitment and selection. This is particular to management and supervisory personnel. And Mr. LaBelle, you want to give us a general overview of the process and how we're including district staff and community?
Yeah, so we did do this for the 6 management positions that we hired. Basically, it's a set panel so that people know what's expected, who picks how many of each item, make sure everything's balanced across the board. And the screening is done either by the cabinet or the direct supervisor of that person on an individual basis. We vet for my office, we vet for credentials and things like that for bare minimums. Then the interview process itself is done in a way where personnel in the past, they've been given a score sheet and they get scores of 1 through 4 for each question and everybody gets an answer. That is something that the panelists may use if they would like. The other option is they can use a forced scoring grid where they choose the candidate. Regardless of the option they do, as long as they do one of the other with fidelity, and that is all tracked and turned in. At the end, they put their choices of the candidate 1, 2, 3, 4 on the list. What that does is create equity to each person, so no one can push the vote in one way to another against a certain candidate. Those numbers are then vetted by the group publicly, so they see not what each person scored, but how the scores were done. In the case of 2 panel ones, we bring the union in with us, and both facilitators from the 2 panels will sit with the union personnel so that they can see in confidentiality what the scores were, and then we bring those back to the public. In the second round, all candidates or all panelists are noted that anybody you bring to the next round is somebody you feel confident can get that job and do it. They're not guaranteed by an order. There is that second group, but we only bring people forward that the panel believes is competent to handle the job. In the final job, the final interview, they are given a performance task where they create a 10 to 15 minute presentation and they present that to the panel or to the cabinet. And the cabinet also has, depending on the job, specific personnel in addition that are specific to the spot, or if it's, for instance, an assistant principal would be the principal from the site. There's then some questions that are taken care of from there, and then a final decision is made.
Thank you. Questions and comments from my colleagues? Dr. Weisberg. Oh, sorry, Ms. Olson. Let's see.
Well, okay. I just want to first say thank you because this is something we asked for a report on last year as to the formalization and just presentation of the process to the public outside of, a formal written. And I think it's reflective of the work that you've both done in your time here to see how needed this was for everybody. 2 just comments on it for me. I was wondering if it is typical for the board to only see the one final candidate. And if there are other, practices on what the board gets access to seeing.
So the test is really the board hires the superintendent and it's the superintendent's recommendation for all the rest of the personnel in the district. So typically in the process, the person coming forward to the board for final approval is someone who's been vetted and then recommended by the superintendent to the board. And it's always the option of the board to not select the final candidate, but in the policy, you'll see it calls out that the board cannot select someone not recommended by the superintendent. And that's to avoid conditions where there's someone who potentially, let's say, didn't make it, and this hasn't happened here, knock on wood, but there's been other systems. Someone in the first round panel is scored not one of the top 1 or 2 or 3, and then a board will go back into the first round and say, person 6 needs to have the job. And so to avoid those kinds of conditions and situations, the policy is designed so the district has a wide variety of people that do the first round panel that recommend, usually 2 or 3 at the most, that go forward to the second round. But that, as Mr. LaBelle stated, the first round panel knows anyone recommended by the first round could end up with the position. And so they have to be ultimately comfortable. And what that avoids is, if I know somebody's great, I might tell them to apply, but they have to get themselves through the first round panel. They have to get them through the second round panel. And we don't want anyone being hired by the district with a question that they came in because they know a board member or they know the superintendent or they know the union president. We want people to be vetted so that everyone on the first round panel is someone in the district who could say, no, I saw them interview and I think they're going to be good. And really we're trying to not ever put the board in the position where the board would select somebody that a panel said, maybe not yet. And so that's what's behind this.
Thank you. That clarification was what I was looking for.
I have 2 things. The first one is, this is underneath where it says first round panel interview scoring. So I think it's the line that starts discussion from the panel will be limited to. I think the sentence maybe has 2. It says shall not be made in a manner that will not intimidate. I think what we're trying to say is shouldn't be made in a manner that would intimidate. But I wanted to talk about why. So when we say discussion from the panel will be limited to positive comments, I am in no way endorsing people just like bashing a candidate. But if there is, I mean, we have the people in the room because we think they're the best qualified to hire. So is there not room for constructive feedback and talking about the benefits or challenges of a specific candidate?
So the idea of it is the people should be picked based on the interview that they gave. If people know something small that they want to say, but what we don't want, and I've seen happen, and that's why we created it in this way, is I'm going to talk really loud and my neighbor here is not going to say much because she's timid, right? And so now my voice gets out and an unequal amount of information is given to the panelists themselves.
Is there a way to find, I think that's really important. I wonder if there's a way to find language that discussion from the panel will be limited and not be made in a manner that will intimidate or change the vote of other panel members, so that there could be space to say something that is both positive and also something that is constructive feedback, but it's not, and the limited means, you know, and you can talk, we could even get hyper specific. I don't think we need to, about, you know, everyone is provided an opportunity to speak. I mean, I think you're right that there's that human condition of some people feel more agency than others, but it feels like we're really intentional with the people we choose to be in the room. And I would like to make sure that those people are given the space to, the space to provide feedback if it's relevant. So I don't know.
Yeah, we can work on the language around that to try and more accurately reflect that. And this is also given to the panelists. This is basically the instructions that they get from the facilitator as well. But we'll look for a more effective way to say that in the policy.
I appreciate it. And again, want to echo how great this is. The only other question I had is I think the breakdown of who's on the panel is fantastic. My question is, I know that a lot of it is up to our union leadership, which is great. But with like PTA council, for example, how are we ensuring that there's a diversity of voice in the room when it's not something that is, you know, controlled by us. Not everything should be, but like that we're not choosing the same person every single time who maybe brings with them their own, less or more experience.
From my experience, typically that does not happen. Typically the unions and the people that are pick people that are generally close to the scenario.
Oh yeah, I'm
that
not
have
worried
a
about
lot
it.
of say in it. I think I'll be honest already with our unions. I think I have a really good relationship. They've been great to work with. And I think we could have that dialogue like, hey, we keep seeing the same person or they could say to us, hey, we keep seeing the same person.
I'm not worried. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. The unions don't worry me. At all. I'm actually just more, and it's only one person, but like with our PTA council, I think we have learned over time that certain PTAs feel a larger sense of agency, specific communities than others. And so how are we ensuring that parents from all of our school sites know that it's possible to do something like this and are included? So I feel really confident about the way the district chooses and the way our unions choose, but this is an area where I think both on like the calendar committee and in every opportunity where we have parent possible involvement, how are we making sure that all of our schools have an opportunity to be represented?
I think one good way to do that is, I think what's actually very unique to Burbank is the strength of the council, meaning the district-wide group with the 17 presidents and the council officers who don't sit as officers on the site-based PTAs. And so the council level is where we would, if and when this policy is approved, we would review that with them. And one of the things that it's okay for us to do is remind, hey, this person was on last time. Would you like to give someone else a chance? Or if it's a particular school that we're recruiting for, then we would expect someone from that particular PTA to be the one selected.
Can I ask one thing quick? I know I'm curious the approach when you are doing the match between candidates and the panel, right? So as someone who's like done a bunch of interviews as a candidate for like public agency, Israel USD or whatever, they always go through and they say, hey, these are the possible people that could be on your panel. Do you have any reason to think that like they wouldn't be able to evaluate you fairly? Or have you been their supervisor? Were they your supervisor or any other reason? Is that something that we're checking with our candidates or with our panelists?
We typically do not notify the candidates who the panel is or how many people are on the panel or anything else. They come into it knowing there will be a panel.
Okay. Would we want to maybe do that at least with the panelists to say like, hey, is there any reason that you wouldn't be able to evaluate some of these folks fairly before they come into the room and say like, oh, actually, this is my brother-in-law. You wouldn't know because we have we don't have to have different last names or something.
I think we could add that to the instructions, essentially to the interview scoring, is that, panel members would inform the facilitator if they have a pre-existing relationship with a candidate.
That would be great. It's a small town, as you know.
These are for management and supervisory personnel.
No, so I just went to one, do we provide?
Dr. Akani and Ms. Khanna was next and then you.
Oh,
Okay.
I am sorry.
Okay. Your mic is not on. It's okay.
On this one, it was, I'm looking under the assistant superintendent and principals, but then when I went down and it just says is assistant superintendent, technical panel, assistant superintendent, interpersonal panel. So do we have anything like this for principals, or is this also principals? And can we just add that on?
Both principal and assistant superintendent would have technical and interpersonal, so we can add that to the table. Yeah, we'll add that to the table.
Dr. Akani.
So just went to an interview at my work, but so we had to be trained because of the union rules. Do we provide that, or these positions do not, since they're union and non-union? Because we have to go to a training, there's someone who has to absorb it, and the panelists have to go to a separate training with the HR people to make sure they follow the basic procedures.
Yeah, in this case, because these are management positions and supervisory positions, we wouldn't have a specific training, but the facilitator of each panel will goes through the process and make sure people are comfortable.
Thank you.
Other feedback or questions about the policy?
Can I
So-
bring up one thing?
Oh, please.
I think I have to. The downside to this process is very thorough. My team is awesome and they have had to do a lot more work on that to make it run right. So I just want to say thank you to them.
Yes, we really appreciate. We appreciate it. And I would hope that having a really clear process, while there's a lot more work to do, makes their job at least easier from the fact that like there's not a lot of gray area here about what actually happens, right? And I think that's when we put our staff in a really unfortunate position when it's like, well, let's do it differently this time. It's like, no, we're going to follow the policy. Great. So we're going to move on to 14, which is the consent calendar. But before we do that, let's discuss the items that were pulled. So we'll go to 14A, consideration of approval of agreement with Capital Advisors Group LLC for Five Star Coalition Legislative Advocacy Services. Ms. Olson, you had questions about this?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a discussion and get more understanding, especially the specific value from you as a participant. I know we are one of the points of the 5 stars, but it's referenced a lot as a resource. And the way that this reads is very much like consulting services too. And I just wanted to see if, for public to just share a little bit more about this partnership.
Yeah, let me talk about where this came from, because this is going to all of those boards, partially because of a discussion that I started at 5 Star, which was, what is this for? So as by way of background, the 5 Star Coalition is our a partnership that we have with Glendale Unified, La Cañada Unified, South Pasadena Unified, and Pasadena Unified. And basically monthly, the superintendents and 1 or 2 board members from each of those groups gets together. We usually have a speaker or share best practices or and have a really good discussion. It's been frankly like really helpful for me as just a place of good professional both support and learning. And what we found was we were often bringing in electeds, our local electeds. So either, Assemblymember Schultz would come in. We had, Assemblymember Harabadian represents kind of the Pasadena kind of area folks. So he came and talked to us. And we've kind of run out of electeds to bring in to just talk to. And generally speaking, our electeds are fairly supportive of what those 5 districts are doing. And they understand the challenges that we have around enrollment, around rising special education costs, with the fires that happened last year. That was a big point of conversation. And so what I had brought up to this team was, what is the work that we're doing here? And what is it? How can we be more effective? Because we have the California School Boards Association, and all those groups are members of it. And frankly, like, I think we're probably overrepresented from like a delegate assembly point of view there between those 5 groups. But essentially 5 Star was started to do advocacy together. And it's, I think, probably gotten away from that. I think it was a number of years ago, maybe even during the pandemic, that they stopped having a contract with someone who would be in Sacramento and advocate on behalf of those 5 groups. So Kevin Gordon, who's from Capital Advisors Group, has come and talked to us a number of times about, here's the state of the budget. Here's what I'm seeing from a policy perspective that might come through, et cetera. And so what we did was we asked him to put together a proposal of what it would look like to advocate for the needs of those 5 districts together. And, come to that group regularly and make sure he was hearing what we needed, so that we could really kind of join forces and amplify that impact. And so this is to essentially act as Burbank Unified's lobbyist in Sacramento with the support of 4 other districts without having to pay for a lobbyist all by ourselves. And so this is someone who has really great connections, not only in Sacramento, but also in Washington, with all kinds of administrations. And I think he's brought really interesting insight back to us about what's happening both in the federal and state legislative land. So that is why this is here.
Can I quickly? Yes, very much. Can I just clarify this? So this is 1/5 of his total cost.
That is correct. Dr. Weisberg.
Couple of follow-up questions. So do we know how the other 4 boards have voted on this?
It's my understanding that the other 4 boards created an agreement to start August 1. I had talked with Kevin and let him know that we couldn't do that without taking it to our August board meetings. So this is actually for us, we're entering this agreement September 1.
So all 4 other schools, the school boards approved their part of this.
That's our understanding. We have our first meeting next week on Friday to confirm.
Okay. My other question is, we also, I don't know how much we pay, but we pay a membership fee to CSBA, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and a big part of CSBA is supposed to be advocacy, legislative advocacy. So I'm wondering, I think I understand President Ponser-Kamkar talked about this being localized. So rather than CSBA that represents every California School Board Association represents every school board in California, that we would have a more like niche representation. And then I think, how will we measure if this money is worth spending? If I know we're spending it with CSBA. Can we talk a little bit about why it's worth spending it locally?
Yeah, sure. So to me, the difference between the advocacy here and the advocacy for CSBA is that it's very localized, right? And the example I'll give is I always attend Legislative Action Week for CSBA when it's all on Zoom now, but it's basically you have meetings with legislators, and CSBA puts together a beautiful set of talking points for you. And they say, this is our agenda for meeting with this legislator. It's these 5 bills that we want to talk about getting passed. And often what I find myself in those meetings thinking is like, well, I only care about 2 of these 5, or only 2 of these 5 bills are relevant to Burbank Unified, even if I support the other ones as a individual, right? But like, there will be a lot, like CSBA is great. And a lot of the work that they do, because there are so many school districts in the state of California, something like 1,100 or something, a lot of them are teeny tiny. And so they do a lot of advocacy on behalf of teeny tiny districts. And so that's what a lot of our conversations are with legislators are, hey, can you make sure you pass this bill that's going to allow a principal to also act as the nutrition services specialist and is this, which, this essentially allows us to set the agenda for those meetings in a way that working with CSBA doesn't really. Dr. Ikanian.
I haven't attended a lot of these even when he was around. I really don't see the value. And I'll tell you what, if we had hired him as a lobbyist just for our district needs, I would understand. But for him to go and ask legislators in Sacramento and Washington to split it 5 ways, that's going to be almost impossible. And I'll give you an example. Right now, for example, we missed the boat on some items to get it from our congressional representatives to get some earmarks. That you're going to need a lobbyist if you need that extra help. But if he's going to go and ask our legislator about, well, Burbank needs money, but so does Pasadena, so does, and this is a challenge we've had in the past with our previous legislators. When they say, well, if I give you the money to Burbank, then I have to give it to my other districts as well. And it also depends who are representatives, right? So depending where their territory is really cut out, it makes a big difference. But then they have to also go back and meet their colleagues in the Senate asking for items. As far as bills go, I mean, if there are consideration of legislation that will affect our district specifically, I understand it. But when you're splitting it 5 ways, it becomes complicated. And I'll be honest with you, I brought this up before in our meetings where it's more of it's an informative meeting. We already can look up these things, but some of us have very close relationship with these elected officials that need it. But the question again becomes, what are they gonna do? And again, the group is to me, it's a good group if you are new at this. But for some of us who really know what the process is, I don't see the value. I'm sorry.
Dr. Weisberg?
I want to speak a little bit to what President Ponser-Kamkar said because I have the pleasure to be a delegate for our CSBA region, which means I go to the delegate conferences. And the big takeaway that I got from I've been to one, so I had one experience, but
At 5-star.
no, not at
one
5-star,
star.
at CSBA, is that the diversity of needs within the districts is crazy. It's so vast. And so I think I would assume everybody up here agrees that advocacy is a huge part of what is going to help us, whether it is, speaking to what Ms. Schwartz was talking about in regard to continuing Prop 55 or trying to figure out a way for whoever is our governor next to not take $4 billion out of Prop 98 money, that's not something that we can do as 5 of us on our own, even if we have really positive relationships with our local legislators. And I think to a certain degree, if we're presented as a coalition, and I think all 5 districts have a strong reputation, and in some ways, I wonder if we don't create more oomph as a united coalition than we might by ourselves. So if we're saying to a legislator, hey, we really want to make sure that you are prioritizing these 2 bills, and instead of it just being BUSD, it's all 5, I think you can make an argument. Now, look, I would want us to look back at this at the end of 1 year and say, did this benefit us in a meaningful way? And if it didn't, then we'll go back to, the way that we did things. But I think right now, it is incumbent upon us to look for every possible way that we can bring more money into the district. And, everybody on this dais has other jobs and, this is my second full-time job, right? And as great as my relationships are with legislators, I don't always have the time to have lengthy meetings or to bring things up or to even be persistent in that way. And I like the idea of us building bridges with our other 4 districts and 5-star and working on creating a larger sense of community, because for at least some of them, we're very similar districts as far as size, as far as need, often student population. So I think all of that to say, having experience being sort of one tiny boat in a giant ocean of California, I think it is worth us trying to see if doing this benefits us in a meaningful way. And if it doesn't, then we don't. But
what cost then?
Hang on. It's Ms. Olson next.
I actually completely understand where you're coming from, Dr. Aghakhanian, and I want to just echo, in my experience, I've actually worked with lobbyists. And one of the things that I found is a huge benefit is that it's a 2-way street. So not only are you getting to supplant narrative, especially in a state that's so wide and diverse about our unique needs in this space. I mean, how many times have we talked about that we just get the short straw when it comes to funding and LCAP? But I think too, they get to provide us some data and insight as to where things are moving. I mean, we have a lot of big changes, like the structure of the state superintendent and all of these different things are happening. I guess my ask would be if we could just make sure that there's some tangibles on the scope of services, and that it is that back and forth, and that hey, we want the intel on these 5 things that we care about as a collective, and to be voicing these concerns so that it's it's multi-beneficial. But I can't express enough how excited I am for this opportunity actually in this moment. I don't know that it would be worth it at every year, but for right now, I think it would be very, very helpful.
Well, and what I'll say is this is not necessarily about identifying individual, hey, we need $40,000 for this thing. Can you find it for us? And this is more about, hey, what Burbank Unified cares about is raising the base because we don't get concentration funding. So how are you, Kevin Gordon, going to communicate that these 5 districts, and it is all 5 of those districts, care most about raising the base? How are you communicating that on our behalf?
Email or look, You also look at the history of this. When this group was created, the redistricting did not happen. Meaning the senator that represented all the fives no longer represents all the 5 districts. Now it's half of it is Manjabar, the other half is Perez. While this was created, it was all one Senate district. When this was created, it was mostly the same assembly district. I want to put that out there. Because if we want to just say, well, we need more money, but you can just write your legislators and get that. I'm just trying to.
But that hasn't worked, right? Like we've done that.
The lobbyists is going to make a difference.
Well, certainly somebody whose full-time job it is to advocate for the needs of a collective group of public school districts, I think has a significantly higher chance of.
I'm sorry, my experience with this, I get it if the Senate was the same, the Assembly was the same. And to me, really, if I'm gonna hire a lobbyist, I will ask for specifics and earmarks for my district. If I need to talk about a bill that affects all of the districts, then you can write to your members.
I mean, and that's like classic, like free rider problem in economics, right? Like somebody has to do the advocacy, right? And I guess like this to me feels like a pretty low lift financially for us when we have a coalition built that wants to advocate for all the same.
I look, and I agree with you, and I think it is, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we're not, and I say this from personal experience. When I raised it, for example, the question of Prop 13, the person was like, we're trying, look, I deal with lobbyists now, and I don't want this to be just, we're here. We need to also specifically within that, see what they can do for a specific ask for our districts. I mean, so within that, if they can put it in there without additional fee, where we can say, oh, we need this and this little help, and they say, okay, we understand. For example, the question I had earlier about dual enrollment. Maybe they can give us more information about the changes. But also for us, and just seeing what's coming in the budget. I mean, look, we got a free ride because of AI. Next year is not going to be the same when it comes to the budget. So I think it's
Governors. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I just
sorry,
didn't understand.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Because of the governors. So I think we also within that language have to put in asks. This is one thing we need to do more, and we've talked about this. When we meet with electeds, we have to ask them. Just like when we met with Supervisor Barger, we said we need $70,000 for our library, and said, okay. We need to also have these numbers ready. So when we meet with the legislators, we do so. That includes, earmarking federal, because our Congress member next door got a bunch of money to some of the other institutions that would benefit. So I think that's important, but at the same time, we need to also have a separate ask for this lobby saying, and for our district, we would like to see this.
I think that's a great, so
it's in the contract.
The vision for this, in my mind, right, is that the group puts together essentially a legislative platform, right? Or an issue platform that they care about and that they want Mr. Gordon to go and advocate on. And if we have specific asks, that he includes those, right? And so I think that the other districts are going to be amenable to that being part of his.
I hope so.
Well, if you, again, just
They will want money too.
a gentle reminder that if you go back to the last page of the contract, the description of services, it doesn't just say fully engage the coalition in the legislative and regulatory process. It says us and the coalition. And that's in almost every single point in here where it singles us out individually and also as part of a coalition. So
we have to have an ask in numbers and dollar amounts ready. And if we have that, I'm okay with.
Well, I would go back and reread Exhibit A, description of services. I think that will, that does speak to some of your concerns.
Well,
but I think having a specific ask when we actually, when he's preparing to go out to talk to folks on our behalf, I think is a fair request.
Yes. Thank you.
It's the tiniest little thing. Just Dr. McCoy's email is incorrect in the contract.
They have my correct email because he emailed me this. So, but I'll make sure.
Assume so. It was just an edit
sure
that I was like, might as well.
Yeah.
Details matter. Thank you. So can I get a motion in a second to approve 14A?
So second.
All those in favor, or sorry, The motion made by Dr. Arcanian, seconded by Ms. Olson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 14H, consideration of approval of piggyback agreement with Class Learning LLC, replacement of 3 relocatable classrooms at Thomas Edison Elementary School, developer fees. Dr. McCoy, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. Before the board, consideration of approval of the piggyback agreement with Class Leasing LLC for the replacement of 3 relocatable classrooms at Thomas Edison Elementary School paid from developer fees. The 3 existing relocatable classroom buildings at Thomas Edison have reached the end of their useful life and require replacement due to age, condition, and normal deterioration. Class Leasing submitted a revised proposal dated July 14, 2026 for the purchase, delivery, and installation of 3 new 24x40 relocatables. The proposal includes the classroom buildings, wood foundation, ramps, delivery, installation, engineering, and DSA approvals. District will utilize the Gonzales Unified School District piggyback procurement documents for the purchase of the buildings, allowing the district to use previously completed solicited contract pricing. Fiscal impact is not to exceed amount of $417,782 funded through developer fees. Proposal includes $371,334 for the 3 classroom buildings and associated components, and $46,448 in one-time delivery, installation, permitting, project management related costs. It's the recommendation of district administration that the Board of Trustees approve the agreement with Class Leasing as presented.
Okay. Ms. Wilson, did you have questions on this one or comments?
Yeah, it's sort of, I mean, a piggyback contract is great. My concern was that it just sort of felt to me like it was missing a page at the top, because I think the majority of the proposal is like, this proposal does not include any of the following. And so I know that Leska's not here and neither is Dr. Hasty, but I was sort of hoping to get a second, yes, this has been fully vetted, that it meets all of our needs.
So I can tell you we are, as you've noted, missing page 1 of 3. And which includes the detailed descriptions of the buildings, but we reviewed this project
Okay.
in the executive cabinet, and we've actually seen the condition of the buildings at Edison, and we can validate that this is a needed project for the district.
Is it
Yes.
possible to
Catch Ms. Olson.
Is it possible to re-upload the complete document just in case someone wants to take a look at it?
Yes, well, Ms. Beauregard and I will do that.
Thank you.
So could I get a motion a second on this as amended with the appropriate?
Enthusiastically, so that those bungalows need.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Arcani, second by Ms. Olson to approve the amended approval of the piggyback agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14K, consideration of approval of agreement with Galasso's Bakery for fresh bread products. Dr. McCoy.
Thank you, President, Sponsor Camcar, trustees, staff, and guests. Before the board is consideration of approval of agreement with Galasso's Bakery for fresh bread products from Nutrition Services Fund. Burbank Unified participates in the San Gabriel Valley Food Service Purchasing Cooperative, which provides participating school districts access to competitively procured food and related products. Charter Oak Unified is the lead agency for the cooperative, conducted a request for proposal for fresh bread products and awarded the applicable items to Galasso's. Approval of this agreement will allow the district's Nutrition Services Department to purchase fresh bread products from Galasso's using the pricing terms and conditions established through the cooperative's competitively awarded RFP 25-26-01. Expenditures are based on actual district purchases at the contract prices and will be paid from the Nutrition Services Fund. It is the recommendation of district administration that the Board of Trustees approve the agreement with Galasso's Bakery as presented.
Ms. Wilson, questions, comments? You pulled it.
I did. You had your hand up too. I was like, oh. Okay. The first is that the other RFP, the produce other item in consent agenda had just a more thorough breakdown of why this was the best choice, which I appreciated. And this was lacking that. The second is, this is sort of a weird personal thing. I know like the price of everything at every store. And I could tell you the stores where I could get a better deal on some of these items. And so I am just sort of kind of surprised by these numbers, if I'm being honest, at like bulk wholesale.
Do you,
for these
I was looking
items.
at it And I think when you look at like bagels, whole wheat 6-pack, it's 6 times 6. So it's 36 bagels for $3.80.
Is that, okay,
Oh, I want that.
Right?
that's what I would expect. Thank you.
Because it does
I
say the
really
contract
think that
price
that's,
reflects the per pack pricing.
okay.
Oh, wait.
No.
It says 6 per bag. That's what's, but
But
if it's a 6-pack and then there's 6 per bag, is that the truth?
six packs per bag. The other thing is this is not our only bread vendor. So we're trying to add this as
Helpful.
as
Okay.
one more vendor to choose from.
Okay.
So if bagels were cheaper at our other bread vendor, we would order from the other bread vendor. So this is just adding another
one.
another
Okay.
vendor to the baked items sort of list that we could select from based on Charter Oak's RFP for this.
Got it. Okay. So just to confirm, that is accurate then. We're looking at 36 bagels versus 6.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Because I mean, I just saw these prices and I was like, this cannot be what we're buying in bulk. So yeah.
Quick question.
Dr. Weisberg.
Thank you so much. Big fan of bread. Are we just sort of reflecting on our past week of struggles? We're sure that both of these, both with the bagels and with the other one, that we need this, that the amount that we're ordering is the amount that we need. We've gotten confirmation from.
Very good point.
Yeah, so what I would reassure the board, these aren't the amount of items that we order.
This is what.
This is essentially a menu. And
Right.
so what our nutrition services staff will do is in advance of menu items, we should know that if we're going to go into sandwich mode, that we would, in advance of when the menu changed to sandwiches, we would go to our bread vendors and then we would order in advance with enough time for frontline staff to prepare the order that's has fidelity to the menu and then prepare those items as those products arrive. So
Okay.
this would be something where the ordering is subject to our menus and our own personnel would be the ones determining how much we need to order based on what the menu items are.
So yeah, that's helpful. I think perhaps a better phrased version of my question would be, we have confirmation that they are cheaper than the other vendor that we're using, that this is a necessary addition. We've checked that and we're sure that
So this is at the request of nutrition services staff that we add this vendor. But also if we have multiple vendors, that allows us to select certain products at the best prices from different vendors rather than having just one vendor for each product.
thank you.
I just want to make sure that we're getting 36 and not 6 just based on
I think the direction to staff is make sure we're getting the best price for our carbs.
the right
Does that work?
and the right quantity.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
I think I misread it. I feel a lot better now that I.
Well, and then their point was like, that also seems like too low if we're getting 144 hamburger buns. So I think the nutrition services team can check and make sure.
Yep.
Ms. Kano.
With all, I know we're talking price and such, but I'm just going back and trying, and so the quality of this in terms of, is this good tasting bread?
I have not tasted the bread,
All right.
but it's my understanding that we're trying to work with multiple vendors so we can ensure quality. So if we get feedback from staff or students that, you know, a particular food product isn't meeting our needs, that we don't have to come to you in an emergency to go to another vendor, but that we have multiple vendors that we can work with.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion in a second to approve 14?
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Dr. Agakanian, seconded by Ms. Olson to approve the agreement with Galasso's Bakery for carbs. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Right,
the
for the
carbs.
record also, if you ever need someone to sample stuff, you can call me.
Okay.
Be very happy.
Thank you. 14W, consideration of ratification of Second Amendment to Services School Facilities License and Building Use Agreement with Right at School. Dr. McCoy.
Thank you. Before the board is consideration of ratification of the Second Amendment to Services for School Facilities and Building Use with Right at School. On May 7th, the district entered into a services, school facilities license and building use agreement with Right at School to provide before school, after school intercession and other enrichment programming. The proposed Second Amendment expands services by adding a before school expanded learning opportunities program at all 11 district elementary schools. Programming would operate from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. The amendment also incorporates the payment for the 3-day BUSD employee student camp, which was held at no charge to our employees at Emerson, Bret Harte, and Stevenson elementary schools. All other terms and conditions of the existing agreement and First Amendment remain in effect, except as modified. The additional cost for the before school program is a not to exceed $264,000. The 3-day employee student camp, $3,600. And the amendment includes moving our entire agreement to a not to exceed $807,600. It's the recommendation of district administration that the board ratify the Second Amendment school facilities license and building use Right at School LLC as presented. And Mrs. Stone is here. If you have any questions, you can come on down, Mrs. Stone, to the podium. But we did want to say that this is to add the ability of the district to pay for ELOP eligible students for a before school program. So this program would only be billed if students sign up for it. So this isn't money going out the door to Right at School without students who come in the door who are eligible for ELOP services. At some of our schools, we don't have an ATB before school program available. So if there was a demand at a school without an ATB before school program, then this is where the contract we would use to implement it. So this is not replacing any ATB programs.
Ms. Olson, you pulled this and then I'll go to Ms. Kano.
I pulled it just to ensure that there was that clarification. There's been a lot of questions this week, and I just wanted to ensure that it was clear that this allows a program to exist if parents want to sign up for it, and that the funds are coming from ELOP if a student that is eligible signs up for it, a family signs up for it.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Kano?
Okay. Just several questions right now in terms of with just some questions about Right at School. I know they were told, just that was the big affair that we had, the big festivity, the big event, think of this one before. A week ago Tuesday over at Burroughs. And so they had a table. They didn't have a lot of literature. And so I know we've had them since May. So one question is, do they have more literature or something that maybe we could put on the website so we have a little bit, people have a little bit more understanding of who they are? Because Boys and Girls Club's not theirs. Right now, ATB's been around so people know, but since this is a new member into the community, it'd be great if there's some way we could have people have a little bit more, because I know people have reservations. It's been kind of a clunky rollout. So maybe just in some way for them to introduce themselves. Maybe is it the possibility of even having one of their representatives come and talk at a meeting or such, or?
Absolutely. First of all, I've been looking for an opportunity to work with the new PIO. So this is an excellent to do that work and get that up on the website for all of our families. We did have and host a meeting Tuesday night where we had representatives from Right at School and their leadership team and their local area manager as well, who were present in the meeting along with Dr. McCoy and Mr. LaBelle and myself, and answered questions. We had, I think, a maximum number of about 47 families, parents who came online and were able to ask questions. I expect that Right at School really does have a very robust website of their own where they provide, I've seen it myself, actually, I don't just expect that, where they do provide all of that information. But I do agree that having that information together here for our families on our website would absolutely be ideal. So I will work on that for sure.
And my other part of my question is, since we did sign up with them like in May, and the classrooms that we, got feedback in terms of that some of the classrooms, people are saying they didn't have, there was not enough activities or not enough supplies and such. Why did we have that delay, or why didn't they set up?
So we did not have good communication with Right at School from May till about a week and a half ago. And I would say that we had our previous director retire, previous assistant superintendent retired. And Mr. LaBelle and I kind of got in the middle of this around July 15. Unfortunately, we didn't have the rosters that we needed until the day we sent them out to parents. We know that's a system problem that we have that we're going to have corrected. So we would tell you that Right at School has been very helpful to us in our timeline and knowing that we didn't do the preparation internally we needed to do to have a positive rollout for the program. They've also, Mrs. Stone offered to do individual in-person parent meetings at each site and or small 10-to-1 Zooms with parents. Our person in public comment tonight has a live in-person appointment with Mrs. Stone tomorrow to walk the classroom and to observe the new materials and the location of the students and to provide more reassurance. So we have been in I have, and Mrs. Stone has been in email communication, and Mrs. Stone has been in personal communication with many parents this week, trying to make sure that they know they have choice and that we have a commitment to having a better rollout of all our programs as we go forward.
I would just like to see, like I said, to me right now, I was still, I would like to see them putting forth maybe a little bit more in terms of this. I mean, we had Clunks, we had this, but they're this community, there's this organization, they're a big company. You're right, they do have a very big website. But why didn't they bring literature on to that Tuesday to the thing? Why did they have one table with like a little stickers? I'm like, what are they doing then to kind of try to ingratiate themselves, especially then after the kind of the big snap of the last week? What are they doing to kind of come out and say, hey, we know we got your money, so here's the provided. They're taking care of children. Okay. Yes. I know as a grandma, if all of a sudden I found out my grandson was not there, I would kind of go, you need to talk to me a bit. You need to reach out. You need to, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, they do have a customer service group of people who have been responding to all of the inquiries that individual parents and families have been putting out there. I know that Joshua Roisman, who is the area manager, has been speaking to many of our families individually and has been on site at every site in the district this week, right? Individually speaking with families. The parent in public comment was actually called personally by Mr. Roisman today and offered, to meet them today as well, prior, to this meeting and our meeting tomorrow to help walk them through. They are also hosting these individual meetings for each school site so that they can ask specific individual school site questions regarding the programs. And we're going to all be attending the Disney PTA.
You coming to the picnic tomorrow?
Coming to the picnic.
Fun.
Yes. So, the area manager for RAS and myself are planning on attending the Disney picnic tomorrow.
And what could you just get some idea of how the classrooms are actually looking? Do they have all those supplies? What are they putting? You know what I'm saying? So that seems to be some of the concerns that parents have. You're sitting in a not that great looking room yet,
Well, I've been receiving photographs and, feedback and communications from the RAS team about activities that the kids are involved in and feedback also that they have been receiving from their resources, right? And from families about the responses for the children who are in the programs themselves, right? And from parents. And the majority of them are very positive. So we're looking at things very positively right now with RAS.
We are working to rebuild the website, and Stephen is actually, if you in fact looked at our Board of Trustees page, we've already made a couple of significant improvements just today about centering our information and making it more user friendly. So our expanded learning page is subject to those improvements, and we can make sure we have pictures of classrooms, and we'll be highlighting each of the programs that work with our district. So we'll have highlights for Right at School, Boys and Girls Club, after school days, and ACEs to make sure parents can see all the information about each program centrally in our website. And we'll make sure that that's provided by Right at School.
And do we have, Mr. Hicks, do we have some type of a timeline in terms of when that's going to be?
We're working daily, so you should start to see improvements on our website each day, but we're going to elevate expanded learning to make sure we get clear communication there.
Thank you.
I think also to give a little bit of context, Ms. Cano, just from my own experience of trying to get childcare this year for my children. And I like pulled aside Ms. Stone when we announced her appointment because I was like, childcare has been a struggle. So, you know, I just think my experience of the webinar on Tuesday, which I very much attended as a parent asking questions in the chat that Dr. McCoy was answering, was that they are being pretty incredibly gracious, knowing what I know about how we did not set them up for success. So like another parent, Disney parent who my children were in ATB with last year emailed about Right at School. Right. And I basically said to her, like, listen, the board president has found this incredibly frustrating also. And like, I have not been able to figure this out, but like the day after we approved it, I was on an email with Ms. Olson and Dr. Knappich saying like, okay, we've approved this. We know that people are making decisions about childcare. When are we pulling Right at School in? And then, you know, I sent something again the end of May saying, hey, next week is registration for after school days. We need to have the registration data out there. And then, you know, when after school days was full at Disney, I was like, just FYI, I'm still having problems, but like, we need to figure this out. And so I feel like I was trying to raise this throughout the summer, but without having people on staff that could actually run point on it. I think Right at School is kind of left not being it because they can't send an email without us, right? They can't reach out to the community without us. They actually had their website set up for registrations in July. And I was like, well, so do I register my kid if I don't know if we're really opening this program to all of these grades or not, right? And so I know it's been hard to hear. And like, I just don't think that I think they are doing the best with the way that we set them up, and they need to do better, right? I think both of those things can be true.
No, because yeah, I could go that and go, yeah, and Mrs. Flossie retired like in March or April. So we know that. So that was us.
Yeah, no.
But the flip side is this is a big company and they're not doing it for free. So I would love to see them kind of come in terms of they've got stuff, they've got literature, you know, bring some flyers, bring some, you know, and then just actually seeing them. And even like what you're saying, Mrs. Stone, though, the idea of you've got pictures that we can start up and Mr. Hicks, and we can get more of that stuff on, that'd be great. Cause like I say, you have children, you know, and if what happened last week, I just want to make sure people are a good idea and that Right at School also knows that I want to see them push it a little bit more too.
Yeah. I think, my conversations I've had with other parents this week, have really been like trying to, ensure that they are, you know, if they're happy where they're at, then they should stay where they're at. And like, if they're not, then they have another choice right now. Right. And that's the experience that I'm having in my own family, right? Where like my kids are in one program, they're split up from their friends. We're like trying to wheel and deal with after school days and trying to figure out if we can reunite all these kids. Right. But like the idea of having choice, where previously there were like lots of wait lists and it was kind of like whatever you got into, that's what you were taking. It's really nice to have a partner that at least says they're going to provide that kind of additional capacity.
We do Boys and Girls Club, so
that's what we're doing, ACES, which is run by Boys and Girls Club. Dr. Weisberg.
Super quickly. I would love for us to, in the future, also have a conversation about offering up an option to families that's specific to our special needs students and families. This is not a conversation for now. It is a conversation for later, but I think it is one well worth having. And I know that we have some, you know, amazing educators already doing that work in the district. So just putting it into the ether for future conversation.
Anything else on 14W?
All the funds are coming from ELAP, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion, a second to approve, the second amendment? Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Arcanian, seconded by Ms. Olson to approve the ratification of Second Amendment to services with Right at School. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Weisberg, you wanted to discuss 14B?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
I am not clear on the timeline we're working on, especially because we have football games next week. But I feel uneasy about approving our, as much as I enjoy saying the word facilitron, and I do. Dr. McCoy, could we get some feedback from Mr. Avery and the team about whether or not how read in the IT department has been on this, and if they are ready, set, go, and in general, just a conversation about like who's involved in these conversations when we're trying something new like this.
Yeah, so we can pull 14B and bring that back because this is a no-cost agreement.
Right.
And we would emphasize this is a pilot. And
Yeah.
in a pilot, there is going to be more unknowns than if we have a typical project.
For sure.
But we'll certainly talk with Director Avery about communication with staff around particular projects.
Thank you.
And I'll leave it there and we'll pull this for tonight.
So then can I get I'm gonna go through the whole list here. I don't think we had anything else amended on consent, right? Okay, so can I get a motion to approve 14C through G, I and J, L through B, X through CC as presented?
Second.
Motion made by Dr. Arcanian, seconded by Dr. Weisberg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent passes 5-0. All right, board reports and communications. Miss Olson, you were gone last time. You want to start? I'll start on this side
Sure.
and then go back and forth. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody for back to school energy. Like getting to be on the campuses and seeing everybody moving despite our hiccups has been a real treasure. And I also just appreciate the energy movement toward better communication. But that's all I wanted to say. Just thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Arcani, anything with you?
I just want to thank Burbank High School. As some of you are aware, our son just started high school, so this is his first year. And I did attend also the PTA meeting last night. A lot of energy and he's very happy, so we're happy. So thank you, everyone, and go. Well, no, I can't say that. Okay.
You can say that if you want to.
Okay. No.
It's whatever corollary there is to happy life, happy wife, or whatever. Happy father, happy board. Ms. Cano.
Well, I was back my first week this week. So for all the BUSD teachers, I just want to remind them all to take care of yourselves. As all the memes say, there is no tired like first week back to school tired. So I want you all to take care of yourself, and to all the staff and faculties. Thank you very much.
Dr. Weisberg.
Hey, thanks. A couple of quick shout outs. Thank you to Monterey for inviting me to your back to school staff barbecue. It was super great to be there and to meet both new and returning staff. Thank you to Schools Beyond Screens for their family get together picnic thing. It was a lot of fun to talk with parents and to learn a little bit more. And there was a really positive, a lot of people showed up, which again is just another highlight of how invested our families are in the community. I want to give just a big thank you to everybody for a little bit of a rocky first week and a half, from everybody here in the district office to our teachers, to our classified staff. A very special thank you to our food service team. Everybody who works in food service cares so deeply about our students. and making sure that they are served food that they like and they enjoy. And even though what happened this week had nothing to do with them at all, I know they felt personally responsible because they take enormous amount of pride in their work. And so it's really hard to do a difficult job when you also feel like people don't think you're doing that job. And so I'm so grateful to them. On Friday, Dr. Hasty and I got to go make about 22 kajillion quesadillas and learn how it's being made, and just see how hard everybody works and how invested they are in the success. And I did just want to briefly encourage our community members that, and as a middle school teacher, I value nothing more than my students, right? But I also know that they're young people, and that often when they're sharing anecdotes or sharing quotes about food, that, coming up and reading those quotes can be deeply hurtful to the people making that food. I'm not trying to devalue our student voice because they're so important. But I would ask our community to think about, when you're coming up and asking us to do better, to think a little bit about the ways in which you're framing that request. How can we both do better and honor the people who are working hard every single day to already be exceptional? So sharing anecdotes as fact, I think, can be dangerous. And I just want us, I think most of us are on the same team here. We're fighting to get our students and our teachers and our staff the best possible version of every single thing we offer. And if we can all come from a place of that understanding, and think a bit about how the comments we make impact the people who are doing the work, I think that we're going to find better, more meaningful solutions than we would otherwise. So thank you to everybody making our food and running our schools. And I look forward to hearing about continued success. And also just wanted to thank Dr. McCoy and Dr. Hasty and Mr. LaBelle and Dr. Macias and all of our new members, because this has been one heck of a welcome to Burbank Unified. And I want to thank you for your steadfast level-headedness, and the reminder constantly that, like, we're going to get better every day. It's really hard to get stuck in the, oh my God, this went wrong and this went wrong. But I'm really appreciative to you for continuing to encourage me to focus on what's next and not just focus on what was. That's important. We've been through a year of really not being able to see what's next. And it feels really good to be able to start to say, hey, there is a what's next, and I'm excited and confident about it. So I want to thank all of you guys for consistently reminding me that over the last week and a half. It's important. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weisberg. Happy first week of school to everyone. Since I know we all celebrate here. I want to thank, after taking my own kids to their first day of school and attending our little PTA coffee that we do, I visited McKinley Elementary on the first day of school, where they do a really great, that I haven't actually seen elsewhere. They do essentially a rotation the first week of school around their PBIS and around their school routines. And and they mixed the grades for it. So I was watching like a group of kindergartners and second graders learn about, what do we do when we go to the bathroom? How do we act respectful in the bathroom? What do we do when we're out on the blacktop, et cetera? Although I did learn the lesson that I need to visit schools where I don't know kids, because I am very distracting to kids who are like, why are you here? Why is Jack's mom, Margot's mom at my school? Which, I forget that sometimes. But I want to thank staff for really modeling honest communication that takes accountability. I think it can be really hard, especially when we all have like a backstory that is true and also that we're creating in real time about what happened or didn't happen, to get defensive. And so I think the communication that has gone out this first week of school has, it can always get better, right? But I think that that has been really refreshing for people to feel like, oh, I know something is wrong and I'm being told, yes, that was wrong. Right. And I think I often even personally have the impulse to try to tell people to look on the bright side or look at this one thing that did go well. And it's like, sometimes it is okay for us to say this went wrong and we want to do better. And I really appreciated that about this last week. So, I do want to extend my appreciation first to Dr. Weisberg and Dr. Hasty, who I know made a billion quesadillas, which my kids then ate later that day. And they said, we're very good. But also just, to staff for being willing to kind of help us understand what's going on without any sort of sense of panic. Like there's always a sense of this is happening and we're taking care of it. And we want you to know, we want you to be engaged. We want you to know in case somebody asks you, but you're not responsible for figuring out what to do with the fire evacuation near an elementary school or whatever it is. And so I really appreciate that during a week that can be often kind of stressful. So with that, we will adjourn at 9:27.